There being a quorum present, I call this meeting of the Margate City Planning Board to order. Please stand for the flag salute.
Attention salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We get on that?
Tom Collins.
Here.
Clem Wozleski. Mike Richmond. Jim Galantino. Commissioner Talby. Margaret Gubernalty. Craig Palmisano.
Here.
Mike Cristaldi.
Here.
David Carter. Despina Hess. Remy Pelosi. Joe DiGirolamo. Rich Patterson.
Here. Let the record note that Despina Hess has arrived. This meeting is being held in accordance with due public notice thereof and pursuant to the New Jersey State Sunshine Law. Notice of this meeting was advertised in the Press of Atlantic City, and a copy of same has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. All applicants are hereby advised that should you receive board approval tonight, you must come forward and sign a form which informs you regarding the timing of receiving building permits and mercantile licenses. At the end of your case tonight, please see the board administrator to sign the 2 information sheets. I'd like to hear a motion for the approval of the minutes of the November 20th, 2014.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I'd like to hear a motion for approval of resolutions and decisions number 51, 2014, Mark Arbite and Terrence Tannehill, Jr., number 52, 2014, Gene Levenstein.
I'll make a motion. Tom?
Before we begin, item 6 on the agenda has been settled. That will not be heard tonight. And item 12 on the agenda has been pulled. So if anyone is here for Stephen Richmond or Margate Investment Group at 7801 Ventnor Avenue, they won't be heard tonight.
Someone is Chris.
Right.
Chris, will you be
Mr.
giving
Bell?
us a letter officially withdrawing? I'd like to have that for the record.
Will be withdrawn and revised plan submitted.
Okay, thank you, Ed.
Mrs. Gubernoli be recusing herself for this case. Ben Chapman, 8 Bayshore Court, Block 1005, Lot 25, in the S40 District to grant C variances for front setback, pool setback, and possibly others. Taxes are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin? I do. The subject property is a 60-foot wide lot with irregular dimensions due to a cul-de-sac curved front line with depth on the left side of 85 feet and 96.67 feet on the right, and a total area of 5,032 square feet. The house that currently sits on this lot has been badly sandy damaged and is unoccupied and slated for demolition. It has non-conforming setbacks on all 4 sides. From the survey submitted, we see that the front setback is 16.3 feet at the closest to a right side 1-story front extension and 16.5 feet at the closest to a left side 2-story front extension. A young year-round family with school children has purchased this property to build a family home as set forth in the plan submitted by Harry Harper Architect. The house is 2 stories only and has 4 bedrooms, a study, a front porch and deck, and a swimming pool in the backyard. If approved, it would meet the height requirement of 28 feet over the required first floor elevation of 11 feet, 1988 datum. Variances required are front setback. Per the 200-foot front survey, you would exclude the 2 non-matching front corner lots 23 and 24, and using those in the other direction, minus the high and the low, you get a requirement of 22.25 feet. versus proposed 16.0 feet to the closest portion of the new house. And second, pool setback 10 feet is required versus 5 feet to the rear property line. Comments? As to the pool, in this case, the setback to the right side is the required 10 feet, and to the left it is 30 feet and buffered by the proposed garage. The question of the setback variance, as usual, goes to questions of privacy, noise, and safety, and the board's site visits are instructive. If approved, location of pool equipment should be clarified. On the front setback question, you may compare the setback of the house to be demolished, 16.3 feet, with the proposed at 16.0 feet. From the vantage point of the one neighbor on the left, that's not too different. From the vantage point of streetscape, the porches and the balance of the house are further back, and on balance, the situation may be considered about the same. 3, the rear setback at 22 feet is greater than the required 20% average lot depth, which comes to 18.2. Also, the new house greatly improves on existing side setbacks at 12 and 10 feet compared to the existing 8.1 and 3.6. The proposed house may be looked upon in terms of improved aesthetics, flood-proofing characteristics, and overall lower lot coverage than permitted. Also, the obtrusive rear deck will disappear, and this also partly compensates for the pool setback matter. 4 off-street parking spaces, including the garage, more than double the existing and double the requirement for a 4-bedroom house. This is very beneficial in the cul-de-sac situation. No conditions other than the question of the pool equipment are proposed at this time.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Keith Davis from the law firm of Nemat, Perillo & Davis on behalf of Benjamin and Danielle Chapman. As indicated, the property in question is located at 8 Bayshore Court. The proposal is to demolish the existing home on the property that has been severely damaged as a result of Superstorm Sandy and construct in its place a new home, which will provide additional off-street parking than what exists currently, a swimming pool in the rear, and a detached garage. We require the 2 variances, one for front yard setback, which is essentially the same as the existing non-conforming condition of the home on the property, and secondly, a rear yard setback for the location of the pool. I have Mr. Harry Harper here is our architect, and the applicant, Ben Chapman, is here as well. If I could have both of those gentlemen sworn in.
State your name for the record.
Harry Harper.
And state your name.
Ben Chapman.
Your right hand, please, your right hand,
Mr. Chairman, can we stipulate to Mr. Harper's qualifications as an architect? Thank you. Mr. Harper, you prepared the plans on behalf of the Chapmans in connection with the application tonight? Yes, we have. Can you describe to the board what's on the property currently and what the proposed plan of development is?
Well, what's on the property right now is a home that's sandy, and it's unoccupied at this point in time. It has an odd dent in the back. It just doesn't fit the character. It really is not a character.
And what are the Chapmans proposing to construct?
What we're proposing to construct is a 2-story, 4-bedroom home with a standalone garage on the side with a pool in the rear. One of the things about the front back we should talk about, just before I can even get into the floor plan, is the fact that the house has ins and outs. It's not 16 foot right up to the front. We've designed it so that parts of it were at that 16-foot area, but other parts are actually further back than the front yard setback, so that it has an in and out look, so that it's not a wall up at 16 foot. I think that's really important to recognize in the property. The floor plan is fairly typical 4-bedroom home. Bedrooms being up on the second floor, master suite. On the first floor, great room, kitchen in the back. The front has a front porch where the front door is recessed back from the building. The second floor, the first floor and the second floor actually have bay windows and bay walls, so that in fact those areas are taken back from the back. So that you really just have the front of the bay that are up that 16-foot area. The building, I think, also makes it interesting from the standpoint, again, that we have these breaks in the front and the back and the back. If you can imagine, it goes in, just back out, comes in, just back out again. So that it's not creating a kind of wall up on the cul-de-sac. And if you're down the cul-de-sac, it's tough to tell because it's on a curve, so it's kind of hard to see where everybody's setback is, but this would fit within that setback of everybody else's. Most of a lot of properties are at 16 foot, 15 foot. This would certainly fit within that. But what we did do is we increased the side yard setbacks so that we're conforming with that. We also have a larger rear yard setback, and our lot coverage is under what we could put on it. So to compensate for this front yard, we've tried to compensate more areas so the light in the air and privacy of others is not being.
And the project entails providing for additional off-street parking than what is there currently?
Yeah, we have 3 outdoors and 1 in the garage.
And we are also raising the finished first floor elevation of the home?
It will be an elevation of 11, so it will meet all the flood standards. All the mechanical equipment will be up there. Pool equipment will be in the garage, and that will be raised so that there will be no problems.
answers that.
And it's a pretty handsome looking building. It has standing and metal roofs, it has, it's just,
In terms of the front yard setback variance that we require, you've conducted the averaging analysis, and 21.3 feet is required, correct?
yes,
And we are proposing 16 feet, correct?
yes.
The existing home has a front yard setback of 16.12 feet, correct?
Yeah, and it's more of a wall, it's more of that Chinese wall kind of thing across the front yard, present. What we tried to break from that and really give the house some relief to the front yard setback.
As to the setback requirement for the front porch, do we comply with that requirement?
Yes.
And we actually more than comply with it,
Yeah,
correct?
actually, we could actually brought the porch out further and been okay with the front yard setback, but I didn't do that. I wanted to keep some of the parts of the house back, and again, keep the side yards with plenty of free space between the houses.
So with the design that you've come up with, the fact that we're providing for additional space for the front yard to the porch, and the facade and how it comes in and out, as you've indicated on several occasions, do you believe we're providing for adequate lighter and open space on the lot?
I really do. And we believe we're advancing the
Desirable visual environment purpose of the municipal land use law.
visual and, privacy.
Do you believe there'd be a negative impact to the public good, to the zone plan, primarily in terms of the visual impact to the neighbors?
I don't think so. I think this would definitely be a plus and a negative.
And the second variance we require is for the rear yard setback to the pool. If you could flip to, or show, is that on sheet 3 of 3?
No, that's on 1 of 3.
There's a 5-yard setback that we're proposing, 10 feet is required, correct?
Correct.
Is the pool going to be buffered by some of the landscaping that's being provided together with the garage in order to minimize the amount of noise?
That was the idea. We were buffering the back with fencing on either side, would be buffered with shorts and of course the garage.
It's not shown.
And the pool equipment is going to be located in the garage?
Why is there
Pool
a
will
gap?
be in the garage and be elevated in the garage.
And we have more rear yard setback area than what the ordinance requires, correct?
Yes,
But that
Excuse me.
still limits us.
Keith?
Yes.
While you're discussing the buffering, you show that it's not buffered on the plans. On the rear.
Oh, to the rear yard, it's not. It's from the sides we're talking about.
Oh,
From the sides. We have the garage on one side, which will protect the adjacent homes from any noise or interruption.
but you have a house behind you, too. Is there going to be any landscaping along that
Well, there's
fence?
going to be a fence that's going to be made.
we were proposing a fence back there, a privacy fence. The board
Okay.
care, but we certainly could put additional.
No, I misunderstood what he said of the buffer, right?
Such a rear to rear type of design.
So in terms of the rear yard, there's only so much space that we can locate the pool, correct?
Yeah, I've tried to keep it so that it's far off of the rear property line, but I certainly have kept it off from the side yard properties, which I thought had a bigger impact. And that it's not right on top of the house, so you don't fall in the pool when you walk out the back door. And the pool's a pretty minimal
Do you want
size.
him to take the microphone, or is it okay?
If she squawks.
No further questions for this witness?
I have a
Questions from
question.
the board?
Keith? Hey, Harry, there's a 10-foot easement that you share with the Subins that going along the left side of the property line?
On the left-hand side, yeah, we
Right.
have 12-foot 12-foot setback on that, and I don't believe the garage or the driveway, it'll work with the easement, but I think that'll be fine.
But that's a drainage, you have a manhole cover right in between the two properties, and I remember seeing that. And and the garage is right on top of it.
The manhole cover is like right here,
Right.
and we have our parking this side of it, and we're 12 foot off of that off the property line. I believe that we'll clear that, and if someone had to dig it up, they'll have to take up our brick pavers, but that I think will work out just fine.
I'm just worried about that easement. There could be an issue with the pipe. I don't know how good it is.
What's there?
It's a drainage, it's a street inlet to the creek.
Oh.
And it's right on the property. The surveyor didn't pick it up. It's on the plot. So can we make it a condition that the easement will be addressed, that it will be kept in good condition? I mean, when the house is demoed?
Yeah, I kind of picked up when I walked the property. I didn't see it initially in the survey.
Yeah, it's right here.
It appears to me that, oh, you've got it on there, okay.
Yeah.
I walked the property. I didn't see it on there.
No, it's a 10-foot you share. You share 5 and 5 with the property next door.
But I think we'd be okay with ours, other than the garage, we can look at the garage.
Okay, thank you.
But I think we can certainly do a condition for this conditional.
Could you had it turned when you point, could you like draw where the manhole is on?
Yeah. Manhole is going to be about where the headlight is of that second car.
Oh,
About 5 foot in off the property. It shares a 5 and 5 easement. But I think the manhole is dead center of the property. So there's a 5 foot and a 5 foot either side easement. And manhole, like I said, it's about where the headlight of the second car is.
off to the side though?
Yeah.
On the property line?
Here,
On the oh, okay.
Right there.
What's the diameter of the manhole?
I don't know, 3 foot, maybe.
Yeah, it's a 24-inch manhole. It looks like a pipe.
Only a foot and a half on each side.
Typically, they give that kind of wide easement so that, you can get to the pipe if you want to get to the pipe. That's good, typically.
Other questions, Mr. Harper?
You agreed to...
We will agree to that as a condition.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I think you have a good point, which we ought to make a condition about continuing the landscape buffer across the back to give full screening side and rear of the pool from the neighbors.
Is there room?
Well, if you figure you need 3 foot for the landscaping, that would leave a 2-foot space between the,
There's only 5 shown on the plan, so it'd be pretty tight.
I agree with Jimmy. I think if you put the landscaping in there, you're going to have such a narrow walkway, you won't be able to maneuver it. And it would be more dangerous, somebody falling in the pool, than having a nice vinyl fence as their buffer.
Is it a 6-foot fence?
Yes.
where does it return into the house, Harry?
The fence is going to come down and turn into the garage, and probably somewhere about where that dimension line is, where it's going to turn back into.
Does it show the fence on the plan?
No.
We'll defer to the board's wishes on the landscaping. If your desire is to do that, we can certainly.
I kind of agree with Tom. I think that you have 5 feet there, if you plant the trees, it's going to narrow it up. You could, it's going to be hard to get by, you're going to fall in the pool, You got a 6-foot fence there. That's my
Very good. I have one more witness, just a couple questions, unless there's any more questions for Mr. Harper.
Oh, you have more?
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Harry, you said the pool equipment is inside the garage? Does it show it on the plan somewhere?
It will, actually.
Okay.
You raised the question, what you asked about, I talked to a pool.
Will it be-
I was concerned that they had to be down grade, pull ahead on the pump. You can actually raise them. So what we're going to do is raise it so you can still pull a car underneath the pool pump.
answered my question. But you'll show that on the revised plan? Okay.
Go ahead.
You're the applicant in this application, Mr. Chapman?
Yes.
You currently reside in Margate?
Yes.
And what's your intention with this home? Do you intend to reside there?
Yes, I am.
And you're married?
You have 2 small children? Yes. And the reason why we bought this property was that, I really intended to build a 2-story house. Then when we started going through the zoning stuff, we ended up that we had a 22-foot front yard setback with a 16-foot rear yard setback. So I was like, you know what, I bought the property because it was so large. So I wanted a larger rear yard setback rather than the front yard. So.
And you're also a builder? You're licensed to build in this project?
Yes, I am.
That's all I have.
Anything else from the board before public? Is anyone here from the public who would like to comment? Please come forward, be sworn in.
William Brandis,
And spell your last name
Frambes,
and home address.
7904 Lagoon Drive, Margate.
Raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm the owner of the property to the rear of the applicants, and I've lived in that property for 47 years. Initially, it was my parents' house. For the past 30 years, it's been my house. Over those 30 years, there's been no active use of the backyard or the second floor deck. My concern is the setback on the pool. I assume that the current zoning ordinance requiring a 10-foot setback was adopted with some measure of wisdom and discussion, and I believe it should stay with what the zoning is. 5 feet, I just think, is too close. My neighbor, Rita Salerno, asked me to voice her concerns. She couldn't be here tonight. Her concern is basically the noise and buffering, and that's largely my concern. I would prefer to see the yard. I do have a 10-foot setback. I do have a question as to whether the pool would fit with the 10-foot setback. It's only a
Well,
10 by...
let him answer that and then continue.
We could push it further to the house or closer to the rear property line, probably about another 2.5, maybe 3 feet. We'll give you about
I would be agreeable with that.
I noticed you didn't have any landscaping on your side of the fence either. What if they put some landscaping on your side as a buffer?
I like the open space on my side.
You don't like the noise from the neighbor, though?
For 47 years, I haven't had any noise. Could push it back 2.5 feet?
Yeah, we could probably make it 7.5, we can work something out, maybe clean shape, do something with the pool.
Yeah, the pool itself is 10 by 20, which is
Big jacuzzi.
really, it's not meant for exercise, it's meant for play. But I would be agreeable to 7.5 feet
That's okay with you?
with landscaping.
With like, Mr. Franklin,
Yes,
Mr. Miller, no one was listed.
yes.
You have any problem with this pool?
No.
Just to follow up on that, before any concessions are made, what space would that leave between the home and the pool then?
Say that again?
The spacage between the home, the applicant's home and the pool, what would our space be then?
I'm sorry.
What's the space between the home and the pool with a 7.5-foot setback?
Before you move it, what space would you be moving it closer to the home?
Mike can answer that.
About 10 feet. Just about 10 feet.
How much?
10 feet.
That'd be 10
From the
feet.
porch? That doesn't make sense.
No. What's the scale?
To the first point of the pool?
5 feet, it's a weird scale.
That's everywhere.
22 feet here. 5, 7. No, it's probably about 7.5 feet. It's
From where?
It's only
To here,
7.5
to the
now.
porch or to the house?
From the house, yes. 22, this is 22 minus.
If I'm not mistaken, the reason that we have the
This is 7
10-foot
feet
setback
here.
from the property lines is so that if somebody tries to jump a fence, they don't fall into the pool. If you slide that to 7.5 feet, now you're going to have 3 foot by the house, and that's going to be a hazard for somebody falling in.
Well, that's why we-
Versus,
Yeah, that's originally why we did it.
Right.
To be honest with you.
and the distance between the houses
Pretty big.
Well, if we
is
put-
really large,
Yeah,
from what I saw.
We have, right now from the deck, it's about 3 feet from the house. It's about 7 feet now, so it would be down to closer. The pool would actually be very close. to
5.5 feet?
That dotted line was the setback line.
Okay, thank you, that does answer my question, because my concern is that we're getting too close to the home. Thank you.
It starts pushing it in, yes.
Thank you.
I too think you're having a safety issue on the home side as opposed to the other side. I don't think that's a good idea. I know you said you'd agree to the 7 or 7.5 feet, but that's really not going to make any difference noise-wise, and your house is set way back, so I think that condition wouldn't be acceptable to the board.
Give us other problems.
Go ahead, you had more to say.
Just a comment on the drainage easement. It's really no concern of mine, but over the past couple of years, this particular pipe that runs along the property, it measures about that big, and it empties into a storm drain right on the property line between my house and the house next to me towards Mini Creek. In any event, over the past couple of years, there's been a sinkhole developing on Lagoon Drive. It's relatively small, but it's a few feet on the other side of the storm drain. The city's filled it in several times. It's not a pothole. So I'm concerned that the concrete pipe that's under there may not have much of a life left. So
Have
it's
you
just for your
contacted Public
consideration.
Works? Have you contacted Public Works about
Oh, yeah,
that?
they keep filling it,
But it keeps sinking.
but it keeps sinking.
Okay, so they're aware of it.
It's only about that big.
Okay.
Right.
But at some point, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is that something the city engineer should consider?
Yeah, this is Public Works will deal with, it's not your concern.
Is anyone else from the public like to speak? Mr. Subin?
D. William Subin, S-U-B-I-N. My home address is number 7 Bay Shore Court, Margate, New Jersey. I do. And please the board, I am the prospective next-door neighbor along with my wife, P.D. Subin, who is here, and I believe she may testify after me. I have reviewed the application. Mr. Chapman and his attorney and I have talked, and Mr. Chapman and his wife Danielle have been kind enough to provide our family with an advanced look of the prospective application and commitment to build. We frankly are very much in favor of the application and are here to support the request of this board to allow what we conceive to be a vast improvement to our neighborhood by the building of this house. We are looking forward to Ben and Danielle Chapman and their children to come into the neighborhood. We see no particular reason why the request of this board should not be granted. The fact that the house may be a bit closer to the Bay Shore Court paved portion is absolutely of no significance to us. In fact, we think that the building of a new and enhanced, well-taken care of building will improve the values of all of our houses in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, the present condition of the structure that is to be torn down is a blight, and it has not been kept up, and it is deteriorated rapidly since Hurricane or Superstorm Sandy.
Excuse me, was this a viable house before Sandy, or was it run down before Sandy?
It was viable, but I would say that the previous owners did not particularly make the improvements they should, but because, as we have observed, it was never properly repaired after Sandy, and I believe that mold must have been in the building because they did nothing. They just sort of abandoned the property, and it had to be shut off. So there's no question in my mind that a demolition of this building and a building of a new house would be a vast improvement for the neighborhood. I look particularly at his request to move the house actually somewhat further away from our house and put in a driveway and a garage and have a fence there. We have no problem with that. I've been informed only as of tonight that there's some easement. I know that there is a storm drain at the foot of our driveway to the left, and I assume that's what they're talking about. If there is anything that needs to be done by way of cooperation with us and the city or any public works in order to see to it that an easement is maintained, we have no problem, because the portion between our house and where they are right now is just shrubbery and grass on our part, and therefore it would have no impact if we need to keep that so that it is available for whatever easement is there. That's no impact on us. The fact that they're going to build a pool is fine. That's not going to affect us in any way. There are other pools in the neighborhood, and we don't see that as any drawback. And as far as I'm concerned, having examined the plans, I don't see that anything that they're asking is out of the ordinary and would in any way adversely impact on us or the neighborhood. To the contrary, I think it would certainly enhance our courtyard in Bayshore Court. I'm certainly willing to answer questions that any of the panel may have as to our position on it, and I believe my wife wants to speak as well, but if anyone else has a question as to why I support wholeheartedly the addition of the Chapmans to our neighborhood, I'll be happy to answer.
I don't think so. Does your wife want to speak?
Yes, I believe she does.
I don't. She was shaking her head that she wasn't while you were saying that, so.
P-E-T-R-A, Subin, and home address is 7 Bayshore Court.
Raise your hand. You swear the testimony that you will tell the truth and the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Just personally, the house next to the Frambus house, Bill just spoke, has a pool, and you can hear people in the pool, and it's always been a really nice sound to listen to, everybody having fun and enjoying it. So anything that might come from the pool as far as noise, I don't look on it as noise. It's a good sound. And we have had about 30 years of not very compatible neighbors next door. So we're very happy to have this family join the neighborhood.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Public portion is closed. Any other comments or questions from the board?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I think there could be a compromise here that Mr. Harper
Wait 1
indicated
second.
that he thought...
Wait 1 second. Sorry, come be sworn in.
Ken Grossman,
Raise your hand. You swear the testimony that you will tell the truth and the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Sorry.
That's all right. I'm at 6 Bayshore Court. I'm next to Bill. And Bill's next to the Chapmans, and I, like Bill, would be very welcoming of a nice young family. as far as making disparaging remarks about the house that's there, it was actually quite attractive. I think it did sustain quite a bit of damage that probably was not cost effective to invest in that house. As far as this new house, the questions I had, I may have missed it because I came a little bit late. A piling is going to be required to build a house? No piling. Good. And what kind of construction? Is it going to be stick construction or is it going to be a prefab?
Oh, it's going to be stick. Construction.
Okay.
Ben's a builder. Yeah, so.
I know that, but modular homes, I would think.
No.
Okay. As far as the pool doesn't really affect me from where I live, but as far as the neighborhood is very low.
Who knew that Sandy come 40 years ago?
Yeah, what?
I'm about 7 feet, and we had substantial damage. The house is going to be elevated too, but
So we have to elevation
11 feet.
Hear that conversation.
Oh, I'm sorry, the house, I wanted to know the elevation of the house.
The elevation of the house will be elevation 11.
Right, so the rest of the houses are a little lower, and I
Yes.
just, from a cosmetic point of view, I can see around Margate now, a lot of houses that are on stilts, and some of them are really ugly.
Well, you can look.
Yeah.
We buffered that one. We have stone, and we've made the house, so the house continually set back from the front yard. So when you come to the house, it starts to set back. So it takes its time getting higher. So it's not hitting right in the face. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, the neighborhood definitely needs, I'm sorry, the neighborhood definitely welcomes new blood and a nice new house. Getting back to what I was talking about in terms of being low in the neighborhood, every time you take up soft space or lawn and stuff like that, you take away areas of perk. I don't think that I'm going to be affected by the water runoff from the rains and stuff that come, and I don't think we have storm drains specific. Are there going to be storm drains going right to the street from the roof?
Well, wait, there's no, they meet the coverage for this lot, so there's no question here about the coverage.
Than the existing house.
Right.
That's a hard surface.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Is swimming pool perks? I don't think so.
Water goes in it.
Yeah.
It drains.
It's considered permeable. Doesn't make sense, it's a law.
I know you know that. All right. This question I have, as far as neighborhoods and noise, doesn't affect me at all. I certainly understand France.
I've always said that same thing.
Ambitious to put a pool on that property.
It doesn't add to the...
I think pools for children, from personal experience, can be very dangerous. And so I have some
Fills up
concerns.
that much.
Not my, maybe it's not my place to say that, but it's tight there. And I think of children running around, and I'm sure you feel it. You answer my questions.
Thank you.
What was this question?
Anyone else? Public portion is reclosed. Clem?
Listening to all the various comments, Harry indicated that he thought the pool could be moved a little towards the house. That seemed to make the neighbor to the rear happier. Your suggestion of running the landscaping across the back will give him more privacy and will buffer his property. The porch that comes out of the house could be shortened to open up the space between the pool and the house. The air conditioners, Roger, can they be moved around to the side yard without a variance?
Yes. As long as they're 5 feet from the property
Well,
line.
they would be.
Yeah.
If those things were accomplished, might make everybody at least reasonably happy.
I think, I apologize, Clem, but I think that the placement is absolutely perfect for all the reasons that have come out. We have an issue as to safety being the primary concern, and if we're moving it towards the home, we're creating a bigger safety risk for those living in the home. In the rear, we have that 6-foot fence for safety concerns, and if we move that AC, we're creating a noise issue for the side neighbor. And cutting the porch back, I mean, we have a year-round family. We want to give them use of their backyard. I really think the way it's proposed is the way it should be left.
And I agree with Desmond. I think Mr. Chapman's a builder. I think he did an excellent job in laying this out. I don't think we should fool with it.
The only thing I have a condition on is the garage. I want the garage to be 1 foot in from the property overhang and not just right to the garage wall, because we're having a problem with the runoff and the gutters.
He has a 1 foot on this, on the
I
plan.
understand, but that's to the gutter, not to the wall.
You want, just make sure I understand, you want to the overhang. Yeah, we can, that's easily.
1 foot to the overhang?
So it'd be 2 foot from the property.
That gives it enough room for the runoff, and we're getting into more and more where the gutters are actually projecting onto the other neighbors' properties.
I know, but a 1 foot gutter?
No, the soffit where the gutter attaches to. Soffits are usually a foot, and then the gutter's another 3 inches. So it's like 15 or 16 inches.
So you want 2 feet, though?
And that's fair.
Okay. Every inch matters. It seems like you're asking for an extra 9 inches. I must misunderstand you then. I'll submit to your expertise.
And Jim, what's the wording for the easement condition?
I didn't see Wahlberg's review in the file, so I didn't know if he did it.
There is no review for single-family houses.
Well, wouldn't he need to do one for the easement, though, right?
None. What's your idea of a condition?
Well, because the garage is going to be built on top of the easement.
Development won't interfere with the easement, is what I think you're asking.
Right.
What?
The development of the property won't interfere with the easement.
Correct.
The easement will
Can you
remain.
move that back 16 inches to the property line to give him the easement between the porch and the garage?
He's going to do
You're
it,
getting closer in there.
he's doing 2 feet.
Was that?
He's doing 2.
Instead of 1.
Close to the house there for between.
Huh?
Just a question, Jim. If they're going to dig a footing for a garage, they can't put it on top of the pipe anyway. They're going to have to move it in.
1 inch per 5 foot.
That's acceptable. That condition is acceptable to the easement language. Mr. Harper seems to think that once we move the garage, the
Okay.
overhang is requested, fairly likely going to be outside the easement area.
So the condition is that the garage will not be built on top of the easement?
No, the condition, I think, is, I can't make that representation tonight, because I don't have all the dimensions in front of me. I can tell you that we will agree that the location of the garage will not interfere with the intent and purpose of the easement for this.
Okay.
As long as the purpose of the easement, it can be followed out. I don't have a problem with that legally.
Correct. And it sounds to me that the easement is only between the Subin and
Right.
this property owner. The city may have interest in it as well. It is conceivable that we might be able to work on an amendment to the easement. I don't want to foreclose that opportunity if it's necessary, but we think that by relocating the garage, the way Mr. Valentino has suggested, it'll clear the easement area.
Then can we include in that easement that our city engineer will approve whatever that final location is? Okay.
I brought up an interesting comment. He said that if we move the garage 2 feet from the side yard property line, we're closer to 3 feet to the side of the house. It's very close. It's like, it's almost like 30.
I think we have a good enough condition.
Okay.
So there are 2 conditions as I understand it. One is to ensure that the location of the garage is consistent with the intent and purpose of the easement, and secondly, to relocate the garage as outlined by Mr. Galantino.
To relocate the garage at least 2 feet to the wall and 1 foot from the roof overhang
Correct.
to satisfy his condition of drainage, and further, if necessary, because of the easement, to be determined by the city engineer.
Right.
Right.
That's it.
No objection to either of those conditions.
Well, I have some additional conditions. One would be that, since you're not showing the fence on the plan, that you show a 6-foot fence, because the ordinance allows 5 or 6 foot, so for sure the board wants a 6-foot fence, and to show in revised plans the pool equipment in the garage located in such a way that it doesn't interfere with a car getting in there.
That's fine, too.
That's just code. Between the garage and the house.
Garage already addressed it.
I thought it just covered the side of the property.
We say that we would like 3 feet. There is no absolute number in the ordinance. That is a custom that we would prefer. but it can sometimes be less.
I'll make that motion with those conditions.
I'll second.
Tom Collins?
I vote in favor of the application. I actually see really no detriments to what's going to transpire on this property. Getting rid of a storm-damaged, mold-ridden nuisance for the neighbors and bringing a young family in who's a good builder. It's going to do a quality job. It's only going to increase the value of the neighborhood, which is then going to increase the property values in the neighborhood, which helps Margate, so I vote in favor.
Clem Wozleski?
I still have a problem with the proximity of the pool to the rear property line, but the overall improvement to the property, I think, outweighs any detriment, so I vote yes.
Mike Richmond?
I think the front setback really fits in with the rest of the houses on the street, so I don't have a problem with that, and I also don't have a problem with the 5-foot rear pool setback, especially with a 6-foot fence, so I vote yes.
Jim Galantino?
I vote yes. I think that we've worked this one out pretty good, and they met all the criteria.
Margaret Gubernalty?
She's recused.
Okay. Mike Cristaldi?
As with the rest of the board members, I see it as a definite improvement, so I vote yes.
Craig Comisano?
I agree with Mike Richmond's assessment, 6-foot-high fence in the backyard, and some of the changes that were made. I vote yes.
Rich Patterson?
I also vote yes for the same reasons.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays, everyone.
Keith, one thing I want to add to the record that before that case began, both Mike Richmond and Joe DiGirolamo arrived.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, John. Oh, it says Ben Chapman.
Next case is Thomas E. Reynolds, 201 North Nassau Avenue, Block 414, Lot 11. Could you take it outside, please? Thomas E. Reynolds, 201 North Nassau Avenue, Block 414, Lot 11. In the S25 district to grant C variances for left setback, rear setback, building height, and spiral staircase to a second floor, and possibly others. Taxes are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin. I do. The subject property is a vacant parcel, a recent tear down of a deteriorating flood-damaged house on a corner lot of 38 feet along Nassau and 80 feet along Monmouth, having a total area of 3,040 square feet. Because it has at least one dimension exceeding 40 feet, it is a buildable lot. This application is for a 2-story, single-family home to be constructed on the lot containing 4 bedrooms and 2 parking spaces, per the submitted plans of CBA Architects Christina Buendicho. Variances required are front setback on Monmouth, 8.9 feet required to the house versus 5 feet as designed. Building height 28 feet above elevation 11 is permitted versus 30 feet above 11 as submitted. Building coverage 39.8% is permitted. It's designed at 44.8%. Distance between principal structures on adjacent lots, 10 feet minimum permitted versus about 6 feet 9 inches from the rear portion of the proposed house to the house on the left on Nassau. Comments and conditions. Site visits and testimony will assist in determining if there are detriments to neighbors that are relevant or if benefits outweigh detriments. The 38 feet in width combined with the corner location may be considered in terms of the front setback and height variances. 3, regarding the distance between houses variance, this applies to only a small section in the rear. For the most part, the houses are the full 10 feet apart. 4, there is compensation for the coverage variance in the more than required landscape numbers on both front setbacks, as well as the large setback to the house in the rear, the one in the corner of Monmouth and Mansfield. If approved, no conditions are suggested at this time.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is James Swift. I represent Mr. Thomas Reynolds, who's here in the first row. With us tonight is our architect, Christina Buendicho, and if you want to have them sworn, we're ready. Before we get started, the present on the property is a torn down vacant lot. So tonight I have 11 actual photographs that show the condition of the property before Mr. Reynolds actually tore down the building which was on the property itself. Bottom line is presently the property is a vacant lot. It's 38 feet wide. It's a corner lot. It's on the corner of Monmouth and Nassau Avenue. There's nothing on there. What Mr. Reynolds did is basically he took what doesn't happen often much in Margate. This place was basically a crack house. You're going to see the photographs here. I'm not saying I like it. And the reason I can say with certainty there was a lot of trouble in that particular house is because I was in the municipal court about a month ago, and there was multiple criminal charges that came out of basically condition of the property and what had happened to this particular property. So Mr. Reynolds tore that property down. What he'd like to do is propose a very nice, modern, high-quality, super well-designed building on this particular piece of property. The bottom line is the plans that you see before the board tonight are not the function of one or two designs, but there are many, many designs and redesigns. As we said, we have a 38-foot wide piece of property. Accordingly, we are very limited in what we can do. What we try to do with this design is take into consideration the neighbor to the left side of Nassau Avenue and the neighbor to the rear. There is no neighbor to the right side because the right side is Monmouth Avenue. The bottom line is, if you take a look at the plans, if you take a look at the left side of the property, our neighbor to the left side is in essence 1 feet 9 inches. His property is 1 feet 9 inches from Mr. Reynolds' property line. So the building in the neighbor to the left, in essence, is very close to Mr. Reynolds' property line. There's only basically 2 feet there. What Mr. Reynolds is forced to do is make a decision. Do I build a building that basically goes right up against my neighbor, or do I take my neighbor into consideration, and do I push that building further away from the property line? Again, the neighbor to the right is only 2 feet away. The law requires us to have 10 feet between principal structures. Obviously, we only have 38 feet wide. We can't go into Monmouth Avenue. So what Mr. Reynolds did, with Christina's assistance, is design a property which is significantly further than our next door neighbor. In essence, what he has done, he has maintained the 10 feet between the principal structure, the neighbor and Mr. Reynolds' proposed property. I did see where Mr. Rubin pointed out that there's a minor issue here with the 10 feet. That is an extremely small area in the rear of the property. There's a very minor overlap where that 10 feet distance is not maintained. It's an extremely small piece. But for the most part, the 10 feet between the principal structure is maintained. And we did that basically because we wanted to be good neighbors. In terms of the rear, there's a very generous rear setback. Am I correct, Christina? Could you describe, let's say, before I move on to the rear, can you describe what you and Mr. Reynolds did in consideration of the neighbor next door to come up with a plan where basically Tom's proposed building would not be right on top of the neighbor? Can you explain the distance between the neighbor next door and where you want to put Tom's Road.
Can she have the microphone, please?
Thank you. We have a constraint because it's a very narrow lot, only 38, and we have a corner also, and we have a corner. By doing that, we want to keep the 10-foot between the neighbors on Nassau, so we have to push the building forward to Mammoth. At the same time, we have more than sufficient setbacks from Nassau, and also very generous setback from what is the adjacent neighbor from Mammoth.
Okay, and also too, Christina, the bottom line is the rear neighbor. Can you explain how much distance you have from the back of the proposed house to the property line?
From the adjacent neighbor on Mammoth to the building, we have 14 feet. From the property line to the building, we have 14 feet. Plus, the neighbor on Mammoth is 24 feet from that property line. So there is a really big space between both houses on Mammoth Avenue.
All right. So just for the purpose of the board's clarification, the neighbor in the rear yard, in addition to the significant setback from the proposed building for Mr. Reynolds, the neighbor in the rear, he's also 24 feet on the other side of the property line, so there's a significant amount of distance between him and between Mr. Reynolds' property and the neighbor. Is that true?
According to the survey from Paul Collin, we have 24 feet between the neighbor property line to his house. That's according to my survey.
All right. And obviously, there's no neighbor that's on the Monmouth Avenue side.
That's correct, and we are requesting, because we are forced to push toward Mammoth Avenue to keep the 10-foot between the neighbors on Nassau, we are requesting a bit lower setback, which is, we are requesting 5 foot.
All right. So instead of basically trying to build a property, in essence, right next to the neighbor to the right side, we pushed it toward Monmouth Avenue.
That's correct.
And because it's a 38-foot wide lot, we are required to at least go up.
That's right. We have a constraint because it's a corner lot. We have 2 fronts, and we have the neighbor very close to the property line, so that reduces our footprint in this direction, on the Nassau direction. And we are forced to push it up to create a comfortable space in the interior.
All right. Now, let's explain the front yard setback on Nassau Avenue. Are we in compliance with the front setback?
We are in compliance.
As a matter of fact, we are approximately a few feet, we have a few feet difference if we push the property off of Nassau Avenue. Is that true?
The building complies perfectly. We have 9 foot 7 inches setback. The front porch could be farther. We could have closer to the street, but we have more than enough setback for the porch. We are pushing the porch back. So we have, instead of having 7 feet that we require minimum, we have 9 foot 7.
And in terms of parking here, how many off-street parking spaces do we have?
We have 2 parking spaces, 1 in the driveway, 1 in the garage, and we have 4 bedrooms. Only 4 bedrooms, no dens, nothing. 4 bedrooms, living room, and dining room.
Now, we have 1 space in the garage for a car, right?
We have 1 car in the garage, 1 driveway.
All right. And the garage, the height of the garage, how high is that garage?
It's 7 foot 6.
Okay. And then there is a living space above the garage area. Is that true?
The living area, the social areas is above the garage. It's the living room, 1 bedroom, living, dining, and a kitchen.
Okay. And we're respectfully requesting that the height of the living area be 9 feet. Is that true, the ceiling?
We are requesting 9 feet because, as you can see, because we have a very narrow lot, we are pushed toward the street to create a 10-foot separation between the buildings, the adjacent building. The living area is very narrow. It looks like a corridor, and by creating 1 additional foot, we create the illusion of space, a more comfortable space. If not, it will look too long and very uncomfortable. That's the reason why we are requesting the 9-foot high ceiling, which is not high, it's minimum request, because this looks very long and not comfortable.
All right. And obviously, on the next living, the bedroom, how high is the ceiling of the roof?
It's only 8 feet on the bedrooms. We have 2 bedrooms and 1 master bedroom on the upper floor.
Now, you and I discussed this application many times, is that true?
That is correct.
And the bottom line is, we are familiar that height variances are sometimes frowned upon, or sometimes board members struggle with the height variance. Is that true? And we came up with a proposed alternative. If the board was amenable to this, the bottom line is we're asking for a 2-foot height variance in addition to the other variances that we're asking for. What we've done is you have redesigned the property, and you have, in essence, redesigned the roof. Is that true?
Yes.
And in the redesign of the roof, the present ratio of the roof slope is 5:12.
In order to comply with the ordinance, the minimum slope for the roof 5:12. That's the reason why we exceeded the height variance as well.
So in other words, in order to comply with the roof slope, we're going to necessarily need a 2-foot variance for height. Is that true?
Yes.
But if we were to, let's say, redesign the roof in a very minimal fashion to a 4:12 ratio, that would reduce our request for a height variance by 1 foot.
That is correct.
So in other words, if we were to propose this to the board, the height variance would be lessened, but by doing a different roof slope, which is not really meaningful to the whole design of the property, is it?
No, it's a very contemporary look. This is a very, the owner is making a big effort for this house to look as a quality, contemporary, but high quality, and aesthetically very pleasing. And because it's a very contemporary look of the house, lowering the pitch from the required 5:12 to 4:12 will not diminish the value and the quality of the house. Actually, it will complement, because it's a more contemporary look, more shallow roof, so I think it will complement also the building.
So by going from a 5:12 roof pitch to a 4:12, we are lessening the height variance by a whole foot.
That is correct.
And not changing, let's say, the spirit of the application. The property basically looks the same, but the roof pitch is slightly different. But unfortunately, by doing the roof pitch, in other words, that would request an additional variance.
It will require another variance, yes.
But in your professional opinion, if we went from a 5:12 roof pitch to a 4:12, would that change the spirit of this application?
No. No, you will not notice. Actually, that is a 4:12, the one we colored, and this is a 5:12, the one that we submitted. And you can see you will hardly see the difference between one and the other.
But the 4:12 would make the height variance request, whereas reduced by 1 foot.
That is correct.
And was that done to take into consideration, let's say, the respect of the neighbors and obviously the lessen the impact?
It's a very difficult lot. It's a very narrow lot. We have a neighbor very close to the property line, and by trying to be good neighbors and good, also good for the city, we push toward the street, and we also gave a lot of space to the other adjacent neighbor in Nassau, and that's why we need some sort of minor height variance to make the space comfortable in the interior.
And Christina, when we initially got involved in this project, one of your considerations in making this garage level 7 feet 6 inches versus the 8 feet was a consideration of lessening a height variance application.
Yes. Originally we had 8, and we would like to have 8, but we try our best to lower the height of the building.
And then by doing a different roof pitch, obviously we could reduce it another foot.
Another foot.
All right. And also, too, on the first floor, there is some storage space. In terms of the top floor, just can you hold that for a second? There's no meaningful storage up there, is there?
The attic is very shallow. There is no storage whatsoever here. And even when we reduce to 4 to 12, it's even less. There is no access to the roof, so there is no storage in the attic.
So obviously, to have some sort of storage space, in essence, your design feature had this first floor storage area. Is that true?
Yes.
Is there any other place, viable place in the property to do storage?
The storage is on the ground floor, and we have areas at the front to locate surfboards, kayaks, long elements. So this is a very large storage area, but it's just for beach toys.
The landscaping design, can you explain the landscaping design to the board?
We more than comply with the landscape. We have major landscape area on Bow Street, Nassau, and also on Mammoth, and also on the rear adjacent to the neighbor from Nassau.
Okay. And in terms of the building coverage variance that we're seeking, can you explain the rationale for that application to the benefit of the board?
Again, this is a result of the constraints that we have because it's a narrow lot. We are pushing from the neighbor on Nassau, and we request only a 5% variance. It is not detriment to the site or the neighbors because we have plenty of landscape on all three sides of the house.
And Christina, in your professional opinion, obviously with the cooperation with Mr. Young, what was your goal in trying to design this property? Let's say what did Tom Reynolds want to do here? Did he want to do a quality project, or what was the goal?
I think he should say that, but he's really is very interested in making this as a quality project. He's spending a lot of effort and money to make this a beautiful building, not just your bare bones building. He's trying a good material, stone veneer, very contemporary, different and impressive, at the same time, benefiting the neighbors and the houses around it. And I think it's great that he's turning this house, which I heard so many stories about that, in a beautiful home.
And Christina, just one final question, for the benefit of the board, can you describe the particular area, like how much space are we seeking to ask for this height variance? It's 1 feet by...
It's a small triangle in here. It's 1 foot down. It's about, I just did it like that. That small piece, that's the variance we are requesting.
I don't have any further questions. This has been detailed.
Sorry. No, it's fine. I got it. Thank
I mean, for the benefit of the board, as you can see, it's a very well-designed property. There's so much we had to work with here. We're very limited. It's a 38-foot wide lot. In addition to the fact that it's a 38-foot wide lot, we were stuck with a neighbor who basically almost built on our property line. So to be considerate of the neighbor, we had to push it away from the neighbor on the right on Nassau. Accordingly, we had to come out to Monmouth, we got to come out, and we have to come up. We're just limited with what we have to do there. So this has been a design and a redesign. In addition, I thought that a pretty good compromise here in terms of the height variance can be lessened by an entire foot if the board would consider granting us a variance of roof slope, which if you can see here, the roof slope here, this is the 4 to 12 ratio. On this set of plans here, it's a 5 to 12. If you take a look very closely, it's not a meaningful difference one way or another, but it does lessen the application for a height variance. I mean, 38-foot wide lots, ladies and gentlemen of the board, we were reluctant to put like a one-lane bowling alley in here. We wanted to put a high-quality project that Margate would be proud of, the community, the particular neighborhood would be improved. Mr. Reynolds also lives basically across the street, and he said to me, for him to be able to convince his wife to move into this place, it's got to be livable. And look, we have certain inescapable realities. We have a neighbor that's basically built on the property line. This is a low-lying area. I didn't need Hurricane Sandy to tell me it was a low-level area in terms of proneness to flooding. I delivered a newspaper here. This place floods. It's better to go up. What we did here is, we would love to have an 8-foot garage. And by having a 7-foot 6-inch garage, candidly, there's certain vehicles that will never fit in there. But we did that to basically lessen the height variance.
Are the lots to the bay side, are they 38 feet also?
No, 25.
They're 25?
What you have is, to the right, this is 38. Then, Mr. Chairman, you have a 25, 25, 25, 36, and I think 38. That's the pattern. I mean, that shows what it is. If you want, I have the, if you want to see it.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, so I think
It's just an incentive for the neighborhood to clean up I mean, they're old houses there. I mean, this is a...
And again, it's to the right, going through the back. Where's 38? Then I think you go 4 25-foot, 25, 25, 25, 25. I think you have a 36 and a 38 on the other corner. So we're stuck with some realities. There's just nothing we can do.
Jim.
The bottom line is we don't want to be disingenuous in front of the board. When we consider the board's concerns, we wanted to lessen any application, because I know these height things are frowned upon, but on a 38-foot wide lot, with the neighbor basically who's built on this corner, he's 25 foot, we can't escape that. Where do we go? We pushed it as far away as we could to maintain that 10 feet in between the buildings, other than a very, very, very minor overlap that's meaningless. We have a tremendously giant setback in the rear with a backdoor neighbor he's 24 feet on the other side anyhow. We have Monmouth Avenue over here. I would submit to the board as no impact, but we have a 1-foot height variance application if the board is willing to consider a different slope ratio to the roof.
Mr. Swift, are you changing this application right now, saying it's 1 foot less with a variance for the roof? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay,
Yes, sir.
good.
All right?
Jimmy, I got a question for you before you continue. You're showing me the slab on the floor, Christina? You're showing me the slab on the floor in the graded area where I would consider your storage at 7.9? But your grade elevations are shooting at 6.8 or 6.7. You know, we can't be that high inside the grade. We have to be at or just a little bit above grade for your slab, then you wouldn't meet the flood criteria on your elevation certification. So we can reduce that by 9 right there, down to 2. Just do a slab on grade, no 9-inch, because you're creating an elevated area in your storage area. You can't have that. I would have to shoot your plan down. I want all the crawl space areas even, straight, so the water goes in and it goes right back out. Okay. So your 9 inches that you're showing me for your ground floor, you would right now go back down to 7. So that's 9 inches you just gained right there.
Thank you.
All right?
That would be great for the garage, higher. I think the vehicles that they have, they are pickups, so that would be better.
Jim, is that the entire slab for the entire house, not just the garage?
That's all she shows me. She shows me elevation 7.9, straight across.
So that reduces the height variance on the revised plan?
If you see the point in here, we have 7 feet in here, so, it varies depending where you shoot. You will have 7.9 series in order to we have there, because here we have 7.2, here we have 6.7, so it's not totally even.
All I need is one wall that's compliant. So if you shoot the wall along the Monmouth Avenue side, then that's fine.
We will comply. We will
So,
work with you, we will comply.
so the 7-foot throw out in the highest in the back, and just keep the 6.8 in the front as your point of view.
And then that 9 inches, Christina, you're going to just increase the ceiling height of the garage? You're not changing the outside of the structure? Okay.
Well, 6 inches up. That would knock 3 inches off. That would make it a 9-inch variance.
No, because
No, we need to work with, we don't want, we wanted to go to the garage also, so we will work with the construction department to make sure this complies, but the line is not totally touched, not horizontal, so we have to play with that too. We don't want to create holes, we don't want the water to go inside the garage or the storage area. So we understand the concerns, are very valid concerns, and we will work with you to make sure this complies.
Just for clarification, Mike, what they had said earlier is they compressed the ceiling in the garage and storage underneath, so they didn't have too big of a height variance. So that 9 inches is just going to be absorbed in the garage area, so it's not,
It's by lowering the slab 9 inches.
right, but it's not going to change the height of the garage.
Down 9 inches. No. It'll still be a 7'6", correct?
No, because they still have to,
The roof is the roof.
They're not going to bring the top down. They're going to make a higher ceiling. So they'll just have a higher ceiling, and why don't they just bring that down? Just saying what the lady...
because it's now 7-foot height range in the garage, and some areas in 6. So they're going to make it so it's just about 7.5 feet inside the garage, which is low.
Also, the
It's 7.5 feet down, 7'6", but if you lower it 9 inches,
No.
am I missing something, Jimmy? Because you said you're gaining 9 inches.
She doesn't want to lower the roof. She wants, the ceiling.
But the code also says that you have, the grade, it has to be away, right? And that's a major problem. This area, the location of this site is a very low side. We have flooding issues in here. We need a good grading from the exterior wall to the street. We don't want the water to go inside the garage or the storage. That's a major concern for me also, to have a good grading.
We're getting confused here. Are you going to regrade the whole lot then? Is that what you're doing?
Normally, that's the way to do it, just for the water to be away from the house. By code, we need a small...
Right, so you're raising the grade of the house, which changes the elevation, and then the slab would be... I got it.
I have Mr. Reynolds here. The board would like to hear from him.
Because this is getting long tonight. I just wanted to mention that I've been a resident of Margate for 49 years. I grew up on Brunswick Avenue, went to high school on Douglas Avenue. My first home was on Quincy Avenue, and 10 years ago, I built the house on 8605 Monmouth Avenue, which is adjacent to this property that we're talking about. I wanted to tell you that my original intention when I bought this house, I was worried about the safety of my family and the safety of the neighbors. The police were getting called there all hours of the night, and I don't want to belabor that, but my point is that when I bought the house, my original intention was to use it as a rental property. But what happened once I bought the house is that the house was getting broken into every night. Every night, the people that lived there would come back at 2 in the morning and do drugs and party and wreck it. It wasn't in that condition the day I closed on it. Well, by the time I closed on it, it was in that condition. So what I'm saying is, I wasn't really planning on building a new home. I have a pretty nice home. But because of the circumstances that led to this, I felt like I had no other choice because they could not come back to that structure that was there. It had to go away. And the one other point I want to point out is the neighbor behind that house, their name is McGowan, they're summer people. When they were away last winter, their house was ransacked just like that, and they stole everything out of the house. I understand that a house just came down 2 houses away on Nassau, on the 100 block of Nassau yesterday. I saw that house. The same thing happened there. So I'm just trying to say that I'm just trying to make the neighborhood nicer. The people that lived right across the street from this on Monmouth Avenue were selling their house because of that house. The moment I bought the house, they took their house off the market. So I think there's good things going on with the neighborhood. I take pride in our properties. You can drive by my property now. It's cleaned up, and we decorate for the holidays. I was probably one family that has won gardening contest awards and holiday decorating awards, so we take pride in what we do.
Are you moving into this house, or
My
are you going to
plan
sell
is
it?
moving into that house, but I have to
Really?
convince my wife to move into that house, because she likes her house now.
You got a nice house.
So it's going to be a challenge, but I think I can do it.
Can I ask you, Tom, I mean, in terms of like livability, and obviously, you know, the important for a house, the 9-foot ceilings, and obviously, you know, if you're using 8-foot ceiling, but we talked to Christina about the narrowness of the building and the fact that an 8-foot ceiling in this narrow building, is it going to create like a totally different atmosphere?
It is. I mean, if anybody's ever been to my home, that's right, the next home, it's 20-foot ceilings. Okay? That's unheard of in Margate. I have a view when I do construction about how a project should look, and in that case, I gave up a lot of living space to have that ceiling. Here, I can't do those type of things, but I need to have that for the house to be in proportion, and that's all I'll say.
Can I ask you a question too? One of the things that in your application, you initially wanted an 8-foot high garage ceiling. You've obviously acquiesced and gone to 7 feet 6.
Yeah, because I hired professional people to work with, and my plan, or my hope is that this gets passed, so I want to be reasonable. And I can promise you that it will be a good project, and it will.
And one last concession though, that you talked about, and our design is important to you, that you also acquiesced in terms of another application for type variance to reduce this by a foot in changing the slope of the roof. Is that true?
Yeah, that just happened this week.
And is that in consideration of, let's say, the respect for your neighbors and the respect for the position that the board takes?
Yes, because I understand they have a difficult job, and yeah.
Everything has to be done by fairness and reasonableness. So I would be happy to distribute.
I don't have any further witnesses on our behalf.
Hey, Jim, just, I think Tom's got a question about what you're trying to, all right, I got a question.
I'll ask it. Basically, Jim, we're looking at the plan here, okay? And under what Jim's saying with FEMA, that slab for the garage and the storage has to be right at ground level. So it's showing a step up to the doors on the picture right there. Not on the garage side, Jim. Go to the one below it, right on Monmouth, right down. In the middle of the building, the entry door.
Tom, I want to make sure I'm referring to the same set of plans that you're talking.
Look at the picture. Put your finger on the entry door in the middle of the building. Okay, that has to be on ground level. Like, you can't raise that.
But would be a slope
No, it can't be. A slope to it?
away from the house. We don't want the water to go inside.
Then build the grade up inside the lot. Then you, I don't know what we're going to do there. I mean, because you can't build it up higher than your neighbor's property, then you have to build a wall. And then is there a restriction on how much grade you can raise the lot?
No, not necessarily. Why can't we leave the condition as follows? That if this board approves the revised plan at 29 feet above the first floor with a 412 slope, that the architect and the applicant will work with Mr. Galantino on the question of the grade issues.
That's fine.
Because all this board cares about is the topmost feature. And you have to start that house at what, elevation 11, and what happens at grade, Christina has to make you happy with regard to a little retaining wall or a slope or whatever that may be. But I mean, we can't engineer, this board can't engineer it. We could say that you have to be satisfied. Will that work? Perfect. Okay, all right.
We'll stipulate.
Okay.
We'll stipulate.
Any other?
If approved.
I wouldn't have thought of it, but thank you, Mr. Rubin.
Oh, you would have thought of it.
Maybe not.
Yes. And Mr. Chairman, could I ask the solicitor just one question here? I'm just looking at the plan, noticing that
Did I answer you?
Huh? We're looking at an address on Nassau Avenue, and there's no door on Nassau Avenue. And the main entry is on Monmouth Avenue. Garage door.
Next to it.
Where's the main entrance?
That's a man door? Okay.
That's the main entrance?
Yeah.
I'm just, for clarification, I mean, It doesn't matter what the address?
No, the lot and block is what it is.
Okay. That's fine. This is a main entrance.
It's Monmouth. It matters to the post office, though.
We're fine.
One at a time. Mike? Mike?
Okay, thank you. You answered my question.
No. Have we had public portion? Is anyone here from the public that would like to comment? Public portion is closed. Is there anyone else on the board that would like to have a question or comment?
Just a comment.
I would. I live in this neighborhood, and that house has been, that house breeds other bad houses. And it's gone now, but this house, to me, would breed other better houses, because there's going to be changes in that neighborhood at some point, and to me, this is a good start. Clem?
Are we going to vote on all the variances together, or are you going to separate them?
Well, yes, we're going to do that. We're going to, Stan's going to read the motion. What?
You want to add anything, Roger?
Yeah, Clem, I think they revised what they're asking the board to the 29-foot rather than the 30-foot, and the 412 rather than the 512. So they're not giving the board an alternative. I don't know, what would you cut out from the vote to make a separate vote?
I am always opposed, and will be opposed here, to giving height variances for making ceiling heights an arbitrary amount above the standard 8 feet. There's no justification for it other than the desire for the owner. And I don't see, under the land use acts of the state, I see no way that it can be approved.
Okay, so Clem wants a separate vote for height. That's up to the board.
No, we're going to have one vote.
All right, so Mr. Swift, just to be clear, the amendment is for the building heights now going to be 29 feet rather than 30 feet.
Exactly, yeah.
And the roof pitch will be what now?
4 to 12 as opposed to 5 to 12, which is obviously going to necessitate an additional, it's going to reduce our height variance, but require an additional variance on the slope.
Okay.
Can I ask our professional just a couple minor quick questions?
Okay.
Before I finish. You've been an architect for how many years?
With my office here in Venice for 20 years.
And the bottom line, you spent a lot of time with this project?
Absolutely. Time in designing and time in meetings with the surveying and with the owner.
In designing and redesigning?
Many times.
And you're familiar with the Land Use Act?
Yes, I am.
And in your professional opinion, do the benefits of this project significantly outweigh any detriments?
This is a wonderful project for the neighborhood. It's creating an area that was undesirable for the completed.
And the bottom line is you took into consideration all the various factors involved here in terms of the closeness of the neighbor on the right side, the narrowness of this particular lot, and all of these factors were taken into consideration to come up with this design project. Is that true?
It's a very tricky design because we have a corner road, it's a very narrow side, and the neighbor on Nassau is very close to the property line.
Final question, would you submit to the board, in your professional opinion, that this application, these design standards, they further the purposes of the Municipal Land Use Act? I have no further questions.
Roger, do you want to read the conditions first? Or
I have just one long condition.
Right, about the grading?
Revised plans will be submitted showing maximum height 29 feet above the required first floor and showing a roof pitch of 412, and that the grade, the slab, the grade and the slab of the structure will be approvable via revised plans by our building inspector, our construction official, with regard to all elements thereof, and if necessary, he may ask the city engineer to become involved to assist him, and if that happens, there would have to be a $300 escrow for the city engineer's work. That's all I have.
All right, so the C variances now would be front setback, required 8.9 feet, proposed 5 feet, building height, required 28 feet, proposed as amended 29 feet, building coverage 39.8%, proposed 44.8%, distance between principal structures, requirement 10 feet, proposed 6 feet 9 inches, and an additional variance now is requested because of the decrease in the roof height for roof pitch from 5/12 to 4/12 with the conditions as set forth by Mr. Rubin. So it'd be a motion in the affirmative for those.
I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion with the conditions as read by the solicitor, Mr. Rubin.
I'll second.
Tom Collins?
This here is a really unusual house. Not only is it on a corner lot, which is a nightmare for us at the board, but it also was blighted and ravaged, and I think it kept the police department in Margate busy almost 7 days a week for about 6 months. The design, I think, for that area really aesthetically improves the neighborhood. I think it'll make a major impact on the neighborhood with a lot of the smaller lots, and maybe start a development trend to upgrade the neighborhood and make it a nicer, better place for Margate. Negative impacts, because of the corner lot, I rule out a lot of the variances needed for the setbacks, because you're getting setbacks on 2 sides of a street, which is kind of unfair. So I don't think there's really any negative impacts to the neighborhood, so I vote in favor.
Thank you.
Clem Osleski?
I could vote in favor of everything on this project, except the arbitrary 9-foot ceiling height on the second level. There's no valid reason for it. And I don't see how it can be voted for in the positive, so I have to vote no.
Mike Richmond?
Usually I'm opposed to height variances. We're approving the 4 and 12 thing, right? So that lowers it a foot. I think that because it is a narrow house, and you know, I think the 9-foot would be okay, so I'm going to approve it.
Thank you.
Jim Galantino?
Tough call. I mean, isn't our next case a roof height variance? For the, okay, so let me get this straight. It's a front yard setback, it's a roof height pitch change, and it's a combined yard setback, and a building coverage. Did I miss one?
No combined yard setback, I think it's a
no
distance
combined.
between structures. 10 feet required, 6 feet 9 inches proposed, so it's about 3 feet.
3 feet.
4 inches, 3 feet 3 inches.
Just on that one section?
Just on the one section, yeah, just on that jut-out section.
Just on the jut out. Had this been on the bay, you could have gotten it without any roof height variance, because it's a 30-foot zone. I don't know, it's a tough call. I mean, this guy, he bought the house intending to build a decent house, and the only way you're going to get a house that high with the storage area he's trying to get in. Hopefully, I think if we can get the numbers down when he gets under construction, they're going to find out they can probably reduce the height even further when we get the grade right, which I think is going to be something done in the field, but that's a part of the original condition. So if we can do that, I think this won't be a detriment, and I vote yes.
Margaret Gubernalty?
I approve of the application, hoping that the same conditions that Mr. Galantino just mentioned with when it's built out, the slab, that will bring down the height. I, in turn, don't love the height being higher than the 28. I think the benefits outweigh the detriments. It's an improvement to the neighborhood, and I realize it's a narrow lot. I approve with the conditions.
Thank you.
Just one question, real quick. There is a driveway apron on the Monmouth Avenue side that nobody brought up. Is that going to be abandoned? Do we have to have a condition in place for that? Because the driveway is now going to be on the Nassau Avenue side. I'm sorry to bring this up last minute.
There's going to be new sidewalks and curbs and everything.
Just amended plans.
It's not on the plan of the proposed, right?
Christina, does your plan show a abandonment of that driveway in Monmouth?
Yes, we don't have a curb cut.
Right, it's not.
Oh, right, it shows a full curve on the plan.
Mike Cristaldi?
I think it's a great design on the house to give a little change to Margate, to brighten it up a little bit, I guess you'd call it, to get rid of what was there. I'm in agreement with Clem on the height. I'm having a real tough call with it, but as Jim's stating, with the 9 inches, I think we're going to be able to pull it down. I'm confident that the 4 pitch, I'm also not crazy about. And then I go back to Clem with the 9-foot ceiling. I've got to vote no, because I think we're giving too much away.
Rich Patterson?
We're always instructed as a board we have to take every case on its own merits. We really don't set precedent here, and I know we've had recent cases that we flat out turned down height variances. Nobody wants to do a height variance. But if you have an oversized lot and plenty of room and still go for exorbitant height variances is one thing. When you have all the reasons they have here as to why they're forced into this height variance, I know they have a 9-foot ceiling they could drop down, but I think for all the reasons they've given that it makes sense and would not be out of conformity with the master plan. So I vote yes.
You vote, pardon me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, motion passes 5-2.
Thank you very much. Jim. And I apologize for taking so much time, but this was a unique application, and again,
Jim,
as always, appreciate this board's time and attention.
you want to sign one of them? Yeah, we're going to take a break for 5 minutes.
Really? Good job, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice holiday, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're down all the way down to 7.
Yeah.
7:30?
We're down to 7, right?
Yeah, because it's a zoning issue, not a planning issue.
I never really,
Yeah, that's what I heard somebody say. Only use the 9 when it's...
Planning.
So it's now 7, right?
Wait a minute, this is different than everything else?
yeah, circus, and he's like, I gotta get in shape, man. I don't.
It's state statute.
I heard it through the grapevine. He found out that there was supposed to be 7 votes, we're going to vote 9. You found out 9? It's not true.
She helped his
Your dad, evidently, was like right there in the lifeguard.
Is that what we did on the zoning board before? Was only 7 votes?
All of a sudden, tightens up.
Oh, yeah,
I know, they don't know.
Standing tall and,
No, I'm not coming out.
That's great.
yeah, it was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was good. So, all right. Thanks again, everybody. Thank you.
We only had 7 members of the board.
Is that all we had?
Yes.
Better have us.
Would you shut up?
And what did the planning board have?
7-2.
Well, how did we end up with 9 on this one?
Because planning boards are supposed to have 9.
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, so this planning board was 9 and 2.
What do you mean? It's only 7-2.
I know, but if you go by statute, it should be 9.
It wasn't supposed to be 7. Every planning board case is 4 years. Don't leave
Everyone should.
And she's going to call the press, just like she calls it this guy.
Let Christina satisfy you, and if you're not satisfied...
I don't want to hear this.
So what?
We're talking about 9 inches.
So,
He just said, let Christina satisfy.
so in these,
What's that mean? What? Come on.
hit that. Spam.
This?
Do you understand this next one? I'd like to revise my application, I would like a height variance.
We're back in session. Where are we? East Shore. For the record, Mrs. Gubernali has recused herself. Next case is East Shore Development Company, LLC, 111 South Nassau Avenue, Block 14, Lot 6, in the S30 District, to grant C variances for rear setback and possibly others. Taxes are current and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin.
Roger Rubin. Yes, I do. In July of 2014, the Planning Board approved a house on this now vacant parcel of land with variances. The house, as approved, was 2.5 stories high and had 5 bedrooms, plus a den and various decks. The variances were for a third-floor deck, rear setback for the rear wall of the house, 13.44 feet was required, and it was designed at 10 feet 5 inches, and front porch setback, 8.4 feet versus 10.3 feet required. All the variances were approved, although there were some modifications made as a result of board requests and neighbor issues. A rear deck was eliminated, and the second floor right side front deck was reduced, so its front setback was the ordinance required 10.3. Due to the rise in grade from street to the elevation of the lot itself, a garage under the house was designed, and then the house was designed on a slab, with the finished first floor as required at elevation 12.0, 1988, and rising the 30 feet allowed above that point to the roof peak. There was no crawl space. This is shown in the present application on sheet AE-1.0. Diagrams on that sheet show the actual grade ranging from elevation 5.83, all expressed in 1988, to 6.0 at the very front, and into the dugout garage area. But the main body of the site, where it rises, has grades from elevation 10.53 up to 13.6. This means there would be some excavation and grade removal to accomplish a finished first floor of 12.0 with a slab and no crawl space underneath. After the hearing, the plans were appropriately revised per the board's conditions, signed by the chairman, and the applicant is proceeding to obtain building permits. The reappearance this month is simply to raise the slab up by 2 feet. So the finished first floor would be at elevation 14, and then the house would top off at 30 feet above elevation 14, yielding a height variance of 2 feet, because you're allowed 30 over 12. Variances required are building height, 30 above 12 is permitted. The request is 30 above 14. Rear setback variance, 13.44 feet versus 10 feet 5 inches to the same wall, but as it is 2 feet higher, the upper 2 feet require a new rear setback variance. Front porch setback, 10 feet 3 inches required, compared to 8.4 to the same porches, but they are now 2 feet higher off the ground. Third floor deck, again, as it is 2 feet higher, the board must reconsider the variance. Comments. The applicant, via testimony, wishes to convince the board that it would be detrimental to the site and to surrounding sites to alter the existing grade by removing and lowering it to achieve the elevation 12 first floor regarding water runoff and drainage in general. Of course, they will have certain facts regarding the grades of surrounding properties by way of testimony. 2, it will also be put forth to the board that the floor and ceiling of the garage are related to these grade issues, and that by raising the house grade, they can slightly raise the garage grade and bring it above sidewalk grade and possibly save the house from water incursion. These are technical issues, and the applicant will provide data and testimony. 3, it has been suggested that if the house were designed with a crawl space, the Base Flood Elevation Committee could have administratively permitted the first floor at elevation 14. The plans as submitted do not show a crawl space, but if revised plans were submitted, that argument would enter the case for your consideration. And finally, the board has to decide based on the above, the application materials, and the testimony, whether the 2 feet of extra elevation are justified, and thus the variances. Also keep in mind the Several House, which the board approved in October of 2014, was approved by the Base Flood Elevation Committee for a 2-foot crawl space, which yielded a house 30 feet above elevation 14, the exact same as requested herein. And height was not a variance due to the authority of the ordinance by the BFE committee. There were variances for third-floor decks and rear setback in that house also. No conditions suggested at this time.
I think the Several House is actually 14.5 first floor.
I thought I looked at it, I'm not sure.
Thank you, members of the board. My name is Chris Balanson. I represent East Shore Development for the property at 111 South Nassau Avenue. It's Block 14, Lot 6, in the S30 zoning district. We were here 2 months ago and requested some setback variance from the board, which the board, after extensive discussions and witness testimony, granted. And as Roger said, the application then went immediately to the building, to working drawings and building permit, at which time it was noticed that the architect, who is not here tonight for a reason, designed the house with the slab, believe it or not, below the grade. The garage slab below grade and the first floor slab below grade. The first floor slab by about a foot below grade, which simply means that there would be significant water intrusion, most likely, into the house. The application this evening is a height variance, as Roger pointed out, but with justification. The justification being we'd like to get the first floor and the garage above grade. You'll see that the adjacent grade at one part at the first floor is 13 and change, and the first floor is at 12, as we're required to.
The finished first floor?
Finished first floor is required to be at 12. The adjacent grade on the right side of the house is 13 change. Interestingly, as Roger said, if we were to do a crawl space, the plans could have been submitted to the building department and approved at elevation 14, 30 above 14, 14.5. That would actually make the house taller. The slab actually reduces a little bit from having about 6 inches. That is generally the case. I'm going to try and not make it too technical. Basically, the floor of the house is below the outside ground. Concerned about the water intrusion. John Barnhart, please, John. Richard, say something.
When was this discovered? I mean,
Working drawings and around the time it's made for building permit. That's why we're back so quickly.
all right, well, educate me. I was there and the ground's all gone. Can't you make the ground lower than what it was, or?
Yeah, but we can't change the grade of the sidewalk. And yes, to dig down the first floor, so to speak, to put it at 12, would eliminate the garage, great. Below, because you can't. You have to dig below the sidewalk. To do that, that would just create worse problems.
Can I ask?
Yes.
If you did, why don't they do a crawl space?
Explain a bit more detail of the opening comments that I made with respect to the variance that we're seeking for the elevated first floor and slab grade.
Certainly. As you know from the original application that was before you, the applicant came in for a number of variances. And at that time, presumably he designed the finished floor elevation at 12.0 because this site lies within an A-10 zone. So your ordinance requires 2 feet above base flood elevation. So he established a floor at 12.0. When he went into working drawings, I suspect he actually started looking at the physical site conditions, the grades at the curb, the grades around the property, the grades of the adjacent properties. And what he discovered, we provided a topographic survey for him to work from. What he discovered is that he had a finished floor that was lower than pre-construction grade in a number of locations. This is the plot plan that the architect has submitted that you have as part of your application. This is sheet AP-1.0, and this is just right out of the set that was submitted to you. Just to kind of orient you, the site itself, along the right side of the site, which is obviously closer to the ocean, varies in height from elevation 13 up to 13.6. The property behind us, which is the subject of some of the comments in Mr. Rubin's report, that actually recently received approval to establish its floor. And I haven't reviewed the documents, but I was told that they established a floor of 14.5. That grade of that site behind us is approximately 12.5. If you recall, these two properties were actually one at one time. There was a pool on that site, and these were developed together. Around the front of the house, as you know, the former house, there were terraces down that got you down to the street grade. And the street here is low. I mean, the top of curb at this site is elevation 6. Bottom of curb is, elevation 5.5. So in the design that the architect originally created, we had a floor at 12. We had a garage slab at 5.8, which was actually below top of curb. So if there were floodwaters on the street, and there recently were floodwaters on the street, the last storm we had, floodwaters would have come up over the sidewalk, wash down into the driveway, and basically create a pool inside the garage. So they had some real grade issues going on. So this is a real topic. And what they've determined they can do to make the project work appropriately is if you elevate the finished slab by 2 feet. That will make certain that the slab is slightly above the grade at this location, and will give about a foot of elevation for proper drainage slope away from the slab construction in the rear and the side, and will give you some ability to get those back areas sloping out and toward the street. In doing so, they're requesting to basically just take the house as designed essentially and move it up, which would take the 2-foot variance. What benefit that does create is it allows them to elevate their garage slab to a point that it is now approximately 6 inches above the top of curb. So there is now a positive slope out to the street on the garage slab. It eliminates the need to, and Mr. Patterson, you already brought up the question, can't you just cut the grade down? But what it does is, in allowing that to come up, it allows the backyards of the two properties to work much better together, because if we keep our site at 12, they've already received an approval to go up to 14.5. So presumably, they're not planning to affect their existing grade, which is at 12.5. If we left our building slab at 12 to get proper drainage away from our building, we're going to be probably 18 inches or so below them. We're probably going to want to be closer to 11 at that rear line. It's just not a good plan, because essentially what you have now is, if you're familiar with the site, I'm sure everybody is, you have walls down both sides. You now have to put in a wall in the back. You have three sides of walls, hydrostatic pressure against the walls from adjacent properties that are all higher than you, potential water intrusion through those walls. It's a difficult situation for the lot. The better plan is, from a drainage, from an engineering standpoint, and from a planning standpoint, is to bring that slab up to make it work with the surroundings.
John, the house doesn't change, the house is still going to be 30
The proposal is 30 first floor, and essentially when both of these houses that are on these two lots are constructed, this house will be 6 inches lower than the house behind it.
And in fact, had we done a crawl space, you get the 24 inches plus the additional 6.
Yeah, I recently learned that. I wasn't aware of that. That's an interesting. I understand it, why the committee is looking at that, because it makes perfect sense. The person should not be, with the crawl space, the person should not be penalized for that. But that's something that I just learned. But on a case like this, if you wanted to create an average grade number for this site, as I mentioned, and Mr. Rubin's report mentions, around the house, you're really mostly in the 12 and a half range. You get up as high as, like we said, 13.6. But let's just, for purposes of a quick discussion, if we called the elevation of this grade around this house at an average of 12, let's say, If you, in order to get a proper crawl space of 18 inches, that puts you at 13 and a half to the bottom of your floor joist. You've got about a foot of floor structure. So to get a standard crawl space on this site, utilizing that average grade of 12, which is actually conservatively low, because really a lot of the site is higher than that, that still puts your floor at 14.5. So by going to slab construction, we're able to accommodate a slightly lower building. It still works with the recent approval behind us. It doesn't create discontinuity between the two sites, and it works from a drainage standpoint. And frankly, to the future buyer, it's the benefit inside the garage is huge. The plan actually accommodates everything.
John, by necessity, we have to request a variance for the front deck and front porch, the third floor deck, and also the setback because of the increase in the height. The law requires that.
Correct. Because the building comes up, technically all of those variances are theoretically exacerbated by the additional height. We put the Olympian testimony on last time. I'm not wasting your time with it again. The justifications all still hold true. Essentially, that additional 24 inches of height, they have no real bearing on the setback in front and back.
You rely on the same justification testimony you gave.
That's correct.
I have nothing further, Mr. Bash. I have nothing further.
Anyone have questions on the board?
I've got to give it to Clem on that.
What's, what I was just looking for, what's the ceiling heights? You have 10-foot ceilings, 9-foot ceilings, 8-foot ceilings?
7.5. 7.5, 7.5.
Well, that's what I saw, but I didn't believe it.
7.5, 7.5, 6 foot 11 and 3/8.
Yeah, that's what I thought I saw. It didn't make sense.
They're not. There's not living space because there's essentially two different first floor levels. Like the living room area does have a 10-foot ceiling, but immediately adjacent to that, the upper level is only 8.6, and then you've got 7.11, 7.11.
Okay. That's what I was looking for when... Go ahead. I can't go by with that. You have to talk.
Am I essentially understanding that the architect fouled up and now he wants us to save him?
Actually, we want to save the house. We're not saving the architect. The architect's not the architect. The architect is asked not to come.
Yes.
I can understand that.
But I understand where you're coming from. We are saving the people alone.
Saving the project.
Well,
Yes,
saving
Clem.
the project as fouled up.
So basically, we're just reaffirming everything we voted on last time, but making it 2 foot higher.
And as I said, had it been designed with the crawl space, I think Roger Light would have signed off on that element of it when we submitted for code. We would have still needed the setback variances, but I think the crawl space would have passed the DFE.
I got a question for you, Chris. So basically, you're going to keep the existing condition of the lot the same with the slope of the dirt the way it is? You're not going to remove any more dirt out of that lot, right?
That's the idea. We don't want to dig down it.
Right.
Correct.
And if everybody's seen that lot, it's a great big hill.
You have to put more dirt back in, right? I mean, it seemed to me that
Well, you got to dig the footings, and that'll take a lot of dirt out.
you're going to take it back to what it was, is what...
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, right now, if you visited recently, you'll see, like the two retaining walls, they need to be filled back up.
Right.
Against the walls on the inside.
So you're taking it back to the existing grade that was there before, right?
Correct.
Which equals the grade behind you.
Correct, exactly.
With the house behind?
You have to be sworn in.
It would be
He wants to
simpler,
talk, he's not sworn in.
Chairman, Rich, it would be simpler if we were just to go with the bulldozer and just clear it all out, make it level with the street. But since it's, all that whole area is elevated, it just makes it an anomaly with the way it's built.
Right.
And if they did that, then the house on the other side would be different also. What's up, Craig?
Jim, didn't they do that on the house right behind it? They dug it out, they put pilings in now. When you look through that lot,
Yeah, I was there.
the one on the other side it's all dug out flat, and they have pilings put in.
I think on that one, that's that's Several's house?
Yeah, I believe so.
He's going to build it to the height of the piling. He's going to maintain the
The
with the
pool was
garage.
there, so they didn't really dig it out, they
But
took out the pool.
no, it's level with the sidewalk now.
Well, there's an area that was an existing driveway.
Right? But it
was
looked like
there.
the whole lot was graded.
The driveway was on the right side, and the left
Just-
side they brought down. It used to be a bank.
So is this house going to be approximately the same height as the several house?
6 inches lower.
It'll be 6 inches lower.
6 inches lower. And what about the house? Obviously, it's going to be higher than the Mulligan's house, which is on the right, correct?
Yes.
How about the house on the left?
Have it on the plan, Mike.
Hayfits.
But Mulligan and none of the other, is anybody from the public?
The neighbors to the left are here, and they've seen the plan and has been discussed with them.
Okay.
John? We're still way back, we're like a 20-foot front yard setback or something, so they're
Which house?
to the left, immediately to the left, John.
If you're standing on Nassau?
Yeah.
Yeah, that house is about 24 above roughly 13. So we're a little higher than that one.
Okay.
The house behind, next to several on the backside is actually has a finished floor of almost 17. The other house, the house on the ocean side of several's house has a finished floor of 15. And is it the Mulligan you said would be to the right of us, one closer to the ocean? Their finished floor is actually 15. So us being at 12, we're really in a hole compared to the other finished floors.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Any other questions from the board? Did you want to talk? Is there anyone here from the public who would like to comment? Please be sworn in.
Remember the name, please.
Larry Bunis,
Spell your last name.
B-U-N-I-S.
Home address, please.
My home address is 4 Andrews Drive in Cherry Hill.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony about giving this matter to be the truth and the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
My name's Larry Bunis, and Lee Heifetz is my mother-in-law. She's in Florida right now, and she asked if I would come speak on her behalf. So we have had many discussions with the builder of the new house. Kept us advised of the plans since last summer, since last spring, and I don't think that what they're looking to do is of any negative or any detriment to our house. One thing that I note is that the old house had balconies. The balconies were in alignment with the front wall of the entire house. So with this proposal, the actual front wall of the house will be a number of feet, I forget exactly what it is, but further back, set back from the street, and it would just be the balconies that would be protruding, but further away from the street than what the front of the old house was. So we've discussed this a lot with my wife, my mother-in-law, and we really think that the net effect of this is going to be more of a view that for us towards the ocean than what we previously had. And I think that it will look as if because there isn't the solid front wall of the house at the closest point to the street, it will actually give the appearance of being further set back. As far as the height, the overall height, I don't see that it has any bearing on us. We have no objection to that.
Is there anyone else in the public who would like to speak? Public portion is closed. Any comments or questions from the board? Glenn?
I'd like a little more input, maybe from Roger or for somebody. You mentioned that if they had done something before relative to a crawl space, they wouldn't have needed variances.
The ordinances that we passed after Sandy created a base flood elevation committee, which consists of myself, the construction official, and one member of the planning board that the chairman appointed, which was Mike Cristaldi. And on a number of occasions, this committee has acted on its authority that when there was a crawl space of less than 24 inches clear, that we would allow the first floor of the house to be elevated above where it would have to be, and if that created a height variance, that would be okay. We did that in the case of several. So when the house came to you, it had already been approved for a first floor of, I forget right now, I think 14 and a half. So it had a 2-foot clear crawl space. It was then allowed to be 30 feet above that. Had this come in with the same request to the base flood elevation committee, I have no doubt we would have made the same determination, sent it to you, and it would not have been a variance. So you would have acted on the same variances that you did a couple of months ago from a higher point of view. Who could say? I mean, in all likelihood, you would have done the same thing this board did for several, which would be to approve them.
But they can't go back and do that now.
They did not go back and put a crawl space in. No, this is a different argument.
No, they can't take this argument to the committee.
No, what they said was that if they did go back and do that, the house would be higher than what they're proposing now. If they did the crawl space, they could get a higher house than they have now with just the committee rather than the full board. So they're presenting the board with it without the crawl space, and it's 6 inches. 6 inches? It's 6 inches lower than what it would be if they got approval for a crawl space.
Even if we redesign with the crawl space now, after you guys approve the first application, the garage would have asked us to come here anyway because it's a change.
Yeah.
So we just kept it in the slide.
Yeah.
This only comes about when the level of the lot is high, right, or higher than normal?
Yes. Yep.
Right.
And we've done it several times.
Right.
Can we make a motion, or is there any conditions?
The question for you, Jim, insofar as conditions, is this plan submitted sufficient for you to sign off to modify the building permit, or do you want anything more than this?
No, all I ask is that they shoot the grade elevations in 88 data.
They're on there. Yeah, okay. They're on there in 88 data.
And then the board will sign if we approve it.
The board can sign this plan, but is it sufficient from a building permit point of view, for example, not to have complete new elevation drawings, for example?
That's sufficient.
Okay. Then I have no conditions. No.
Then I'll make a motion.
And I'll second.
Essentially, it's a C variance for building height and a reapproval of the setback front porch, which is a front setback and a third-floor deck, which was permitted previously. We just have to reaffirm that for the same reasons. I'm sorry, we have to vote. You have to vote whether you want to reaffirm that. It was already approved before. It's just the only reason the last 3 variances are being requested are because of the 2 feet increase in height. So essentially, it's a building height variance request.
So with that being said, I would like to ask for a motion. I didn't ask for the motion.
I make a motion.
And I'll second it.
Tom Collins?
Due to the uniqueness of this block and neighborhood, I think this is a very de minimis request in terms of the height variance. I think it'll have no negative impact. As far as the other variances, I would reaffirm them for the same reasons I voted for them in the last application.
Clem Wozlowski?
Based on Roger's explanation of the situation, I vote yes.
Jim Galantino?
The only reason we're in front of the board is because they changed the plan originally, and we only felt that the board should hear it to make sure that we're all on the same page. And I vote yes.
Mike Cristaldi?
It is pretty unique, but I signed off on it once, and it would be 6 inches higher the other way, so I approve.
Mike Richmond?
Yeah, I think the height pretty much fits in with the overall neighborhood pattern, so I'm going to vote yes.
Craig Palmisano?
I agree with the assessment of the other board members. I vote yes.
Rich Patterson?
I also vote yes, and the only reason is they're not going to be higher than the house behind them, and the house next to them is minimal.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next case is Albert and Diana Zotti, 110 North Vendome Avenue, Block 323, Lot 7, in the S30 District, to grant C variances for side and rear and minimum landscape area. Taxes are current and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin.
You swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be truthful and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. The subject property is an existing three-bedroom, one-story, single-family house on a lot of 41 by 80 feet, right across the street from City Hall behind us. Per the Ponzio site plan submitted herewith, the owners wish to construct a swimming pool in the rear yard, measuring 12 by 18, situated 5 feet from the right side and rear property lines. A permeable paver patio is proposed around the pool, and a 2-foot wide landscape buffer is proposed on the right and rear sides, consisting of 18 6-foot high evergreens. The garage is on the left. A 5 to 6 foot high fence is proposed to replace the existing 4-foot chain link fence, and the pool equipment would be inside the garage over 10 feet from the side and rear property lines as required. The required variances are for pool setback where 10 is required, landscape area 35% required overall site versus 33.5% due to patio surrounding the pool. Comments? As always in pool cases, the board's site visits will indicate whether there are any issues related to privacy, noise, or safety. 2, the proposed landscape area with evergreens on the variance sides can be considered as positive factors with regard to all 3 criteria. 3, the house to the right has a large shed about 9 feet high, shielding it somewhat from the pool area. 4, the house to the rear is estimated at about 25 to 30 feet from the proposed pool. Perhaps the applicant has a more precise measurement. 5, the landscape area deficiency should be discussed. It comes to 49.2 square feet. Can anything be done to remove this variance by removing paving elsewhere on the lot? 6, the applicant should discuss the mature spread of the proposed juniper. It is to be planted in a 2-foot strip. Will it remain relatively thin as it grows tall, or could there be future encroachment issues? And if so, could a thinner evergreen be substituted? No conditions suggested at this time, except for what may emerge as part of the questions posed above.
Thank you, Mr. Rubin. Members of the board, my name is Chris Balinson. I represent Albert and Diane Zotti, who are here with us this evening, who have owned that 110 North Vendome Avenue for some 30 years. It's Lot 7 in Block 323. It's in the S30 zoning district. The property is improved with a 1.5-story single-family home. The application before you this evening is for pool setbacks of 5 feet versus 10 feet as to the rear yard setback and the right side yard setback. The pool also implicates a de minimis a landscaping variance of about 1.5%. And we looked at the plot plan.
Did you say on both sides, no buffer?
Yeah, we're not going to do landscaping.
I do. You said that you're asking for a 33.5% variance for landscape.
33.5 versus 35, 1.5.
Yeah, except you started off and said you're eliminating all the shrubs on both sides, so now you're...
It's still going to be a landscape area. We're just not proposing tall evergreens.
It's still going to be landscape.
Still gonna be
You're not eliminating...
We're not going to tie, we're not going to hard surface.
What's it going to be?
It's going to be low landscape and beds, it'll be beds.
Flowers.
John, I'm too far away to clearly read that plan, but looking on the plan that I have, between the garage and the pool, it looks like there's about 2 foot of concrete and then pavers. Is that correct?
There's an area of existing concrete there and then pavers, that's correct. pave it, there's existing concrete adjacent to the garage, and then we're proposing, a relatively narrow paver band and walkway around the pool.
Well, what's that concrete for? Is there a door in the side of the garage or something?
Is there a door inside? Yes.
You couldn't eliminate some of that concrete?
I mean, again, Glenn, obviously, we could eliminate some concrete. From a negative impact standpoint, it just seemed a shame to have them rip up concrete for that 1%. It's so
Well,
minor.
by the time they dig for that pool, that concrete's going to go.
That's right.
And how about between the rear of the house and the pool? It shows, again, on my plan, an undefined area.
But between the rear of the house and the pool, there actually is an unpaved space. You see that green space there that is proposed to remain as a green space.
No, because it's not shown as such on, well, it could be green space. And again, you got a little bit of concrete.
Are you saying that green that you have shaded that's white on ours is grass? Is that grass? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Grass going to remain
Yeah.
as
Grass.
Well, you know they can't dig that hole and save that concrete. You could eliminate your landscape variance very easily.
Well, how are you getting a machine? It's going to be hand dug. John, is this going to be hand dug, this pool?
I'm sorry?
Is the pool going to be hand dug?
I mean, it's not going to be a giant machine. You can't get it back there. It's going to be dug with a very small piece of equipment.
Actually, the neighbors in the rear is allowing the zombies to use their driveway and backyard to come to And Glenn, yes, we can get rid of some of that concrete, we'll try and get that landscaping up to 35%. If it's doable, we will look to do that.
I have one question. We've had this problem all summer long, and it still continues. The drainage of the pool while it's being excavated, the hole. We have people that put the pipe out in the middle of the street, and next thing you know, you have continual water 24/7 running. You as an engineer, can you come up with a decent plan so we can stop the runoff from going into the gutter, accumulating silt, dirt, and neighbors calling and complaining that there's all summer? Because I know this is going to go into the spring. There's no way they're going to be able to get this done.
That's an interesting discussion. That's a tough one because when you construct a pool, you do need to de-water it on a 24-hour basis until you get it built. Because you got to keep the hole dry.
I don't know if this is for the board.
What they're doing now, Jim, is they're actually taking the drainage hose to the gutter and putting in a large bale of hay, and the hay collects the silt and filters it, and the water runs through. So you'd have to make sure that they did that.
Yeah. Is the concern the sediment, or is the concern just pumping the water into the gutter at all?
Well, the sediment comes out of the
Well,
water.
you can
It's the
definitely
sediment.
control the sediment. I mean, you can put a sediment bag on the end of the pump, and it will just collect it, and then it'll eventually clog, and then they have to change the bag. I mean, there's a million ways to do that. I thought you were concerned about the water.
Put it on the plan.
Yeah, that's easy. I mean, it's just the sediment that's of a concern. That's easy to fix.
Put it on the plan.
Want to go to the plan?
Okay.
And John, is there a reason that this pool was designed so large for such a small area? I'm looking in terms of safety.
I mean, I guess it's a matter of opinion whether it's large. It's 12 by 18. It's large for Margate, I guess you could say.
I think Mr. Zotti can answer that.
You saw the last one where
Right, it was much.
Chapman made his 10 instead of 12 and didn't do the shrubs in the back and kept egress ample around, because you're talking about safety around the pool itself.
Correct.
So a 10-foot versus a 12-foot wide pool, for any reason, wouldn't really mediate any difference. There's no reason.
Mr. Zotti, please.
State your name for the record.
Albert Zotti, Z-O-T-T-I.
Raise your right hand and swear the testimony about to give us not only the truth and nothing but the truth.
Al, you heard the comment from Mr. Collins from the board, but give us a tiny bit of your background and your wife and why you're asking the board to approve this pool with the facts.
We owned the house for 30 years. I'm recently retired law enforcement officer. I retired in May, and we plan on using the house 6 to 7 months a year right now. We may move down here eventually. My wife has pins and screws in one ankle. She has problems with her other ankle because of the compensation. She's developed some issues with that. And I have a note here from the doctor that the aquatic therapy would greatly help her. Every day she needs to do that. She can't walk on the beach because of her ankles. It really bothers her. And again, I'm a retired law enforcement officer. I would never disrespect our neighbors or the community with any noise, and I'm the last person who would want the Margate Police Department coming up to the house. So I can assure the board that will not be an issue. You're welcome.
I think what I was asking, though, is why 12 feet versus 10?
Well, she
Because
needs-
even with the therapy, you still have the 18, but it wouldn't really make much difference.
Right, she needs, in order to do the therapy, she needs it deep. She needs it at least 5 feet deep. So they said it's too narrow, too short of a
Right.
pitch.
I wasn't talking about the length,
Okay.
the 18 feet. That's where you get your depth. I was talking about the width, which pushes it so you have a tight setback to the rear property line. In other words, if it's 12 foot and you make it 10 foot like the other applicant did, then you could actually take a foot off of each side or one. You still get the therapy, but you're not taking up so much of the.
It's just that it's a small pool to start with, and again, we just wanted to maximize the use of it. And it's not going to be a party pool. We have no young children. My son is 27. For our personal use and for her therapy. So we're just asking.
Just
6-foot white resin fence.
quick question also.
Yes,
The neighbor that's allowing you to use their land and go through, is that directly behind you?
yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes. I spoke to him personally also. I assured him if there's any issues, any damage to the lawn, we would take care of it personally. It's not a problem.
You're done? Any other questions from the board? Is anyone here from the public who would like to comment? This guy.
William Jacobini. Jacovini. 112 North Bend Road.
Raise your right hand. You swear the testimony that you give is the matter of truth and
Absolutely. Just very briefly, I live next door to Al and Diane Zotti, and I spoke to a couple of neighbors. There's absolutely no problems with them having the pool there. I'm the closest one to the pool, and there is no problem whatsoever. I just wanted to say that. No one has any complaints, and I do not think it's going to be any problem, with any of the neighbors.
Did they offer you use of the pool for testifying?
Absolutely not. We're going to negotiate that. But really, there's no problem. All right? You're welcome.
Anyone else in the public like to speak? Public portion's closed. Any other questions or comments from the board? Roger, would you read the conditions?
Revised plans showing elimination of the tall evergreens and replacement with lower landscaping, and revised plans showing elimination of the landscape variance, showing a full 35%. Yeah.
Question?
Yeah.
That landscape area across the back, that could be just grass?
I don't see why not. Grass, shrubs, yeah, grass, sure,
So
absolutely.
instead of having shrubs stick up, they give them more egress for
Yeah,
safety?
sure. The grass cuttings will get in the pool.
Preferable, Tom.
All right, so I'd like to hear a motion with those conditions.
I'll make a motion. Again? I'll second it.
Who made it?
Mike made it, she seconded it.
I think the motion has to be made by people that are voting.
Who's not, is she not voting?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, the motion, who made the motion? He's-
Can't
was
be
he
made
voting? Well, he can't make the motion.
You got to make the regular members.
Right.
Just for the camera.
They have to have hair?
I didn't say that.
Thank you for that.
No, that's gonna, okay. Tom Collins?
This is kind of a really, really unique situation. I think under the circumstances and the seemingly unimpactful impact on the neighborhood, getting rid of those shrubs and making it a more walkable and safety-conscious area, I think I'll approve the application.
Clem Oslowski?
I see nothing negative about this application. I vote yes.
Mike Richmond?
I vote in favor of the application.
Jim Galantino?
You know, the building department's only right across the street. Can we use the pool too? I don't see any detriment. I vote yes.
Not during hours.
Margaret Gubernalty?
I vote in favor of the application for the same reasons.
Michael Cristaldi?
I see no problem with the application. I vote yes.
Richard Patterson?
I also vote yes for the,
Motion
before stated
passes
reasons.
7-0.
Thank you very much.
We have other business to discuss before we adjourn.
Another case.
Oh, we have another case?
Yeah.
Sorry. Next case. Ray Scott Bonar, 221 North Decatur Avenue, Block 425, Lot 148 in the WSD District for alteration of commercial building by adding an apartment above. Taxes are current, proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. Rubin?
Roger Rubin. Excuse me. Yes. The subject property is the small boat storage yard associated with Ray Scott's dock across Amherst Avenue, which includes a small one-story masonry garage on a street-to-street parcel of 30 feet wide by 109 feet deep to Benson Avenue, containing a total of 3,270 square feet. The proposal herein, per the Peter Weiss plan, is to construct above that garage a two-story, two-bedroom plus den dwelling unit for occupancy of Ray Scott Bonar, grandson of Ray Scott, and his family. Ray operates and manages the business along with his mother, Robin Scott, and wishes to reside near, above the business, to oversee operations, security of the stored boats and equipment, and to be immediately available in case of weather emergencies and the like. Actions required are site plan action to increase the usage on a commercially zoned lot by adding a unit above, and a variance for a third-floor deck on Decatur. Comments: there are no other variances per the applicable CBD requirements. The proposal meets minimum front of 0, being 2 feet back, and minimum sides of 0, being 3.5 on the left and 4.5 on the right. The left side was apparently increased to 3.5 feet to provide additional air and light to that neighbor who fronts on Amherst. The 5-foot minimum rear setback is of course greatly exceeded, as it is 69 feet to the Benson property line. Second, the two-bedroom house properly has one off-street parking space as shown on the plan accessed at Benson Avenue. The plan also shows curb and driveway improvement in front on Decatur. 3, the building's height is 1 foot below the permitted height for the usage in the zone. 4, there is no minimum landscape requirement in terms of area. The site is 68% open and permeable after addition of the proposed house. And 5, as stated above, the owner-operator living above the business at such a close proximity to the store and marina across Amherst is a tremendous asset in terms of safety, security, and efficiency. Additionally, the occupants are a young year-round family with school-aged children, present and future. It is desirable that another generation of waterfront entrepreneurs preserving access to and enjoyment of our precious bayfront be encouraged in this manner. The city's 2004 master plan sets forth as one of its 6 major goals and objectives to continue the revitalization of the city's Bayfront district. At the core of that revitalization, which may soon include a boardwalk promenade a bit further down, is one of the last remaining establishments oriented toward enjoyment of the bay waters, fishing, boating, and other recreational aspects of the waterfront Ray Scott's Dock and Marina. Such commercial activities available to the general public at no cost to the taxpayers should be encouraged to continue and flourish, and the multi-generational ownership and management is an intangible aspect that perhaps Margate's official family should encourage by projects such as this one. No conditions are suggested at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Rubin. My name is Chris Balins, and I represent the estate of Ray Scott. Robin and Scott are here with me today for their property at 221 North Decatur Avenue. It's the small block commercial storage garage on lot 148 and block 425. Proposal, as you heard, these guys came to me and asked me what I thought of the project. I looked when I was at the shop. I looked across the street at the garage. I'm like, I think it's awesome. It's the kind of thing we want back there around here. These guys have been there since 1957. I was there when I was a kid, and they're still there, and they obviously want to continue the business and continue to stay there, living on site, and obviously at one point in time, at some point in time, taking over the business, to run the business and continue it. The proposal really is a by right site plan. Roger suggests that the deck is a third floor deck. That's a block commercial storage garage. It's not a habitable space. It's really a two-story structure over that. You can consider building a foundation. The board wants to act on variance, it's fine. It's up to you. It's Pete designed a really cool little building above that garage to use it consistent with the WSD/CBD zoning district requirements, which allow this exact type of use. Relatively modest two-bedroom apartment that can work well and allow the business to continue to use the boat storage yard, which I hope you all noticed today was cleaned up perfectly.
State your name for the record, please.
Peter Weiss?
Pete, you prepared the plans and submitted the motion already? Yes. Would you please explain the proposal to the board and answer the questions of whether or not the proposal complies with the Margate's site plan?
The project's pretty simple. We just designed a small two-story unit over an existing block storage building. The intent was to make them as small as we could because that's all they needed, but also but also we were trying to leave as much open space as we could on the lot to continue the boat storage. So, there's an incentive just to basically make the unit as small as practical. So right now it's a little over 1,500 square feet. And the first floor you basically have open living space and a bedroom. Upstairs you have a bedroom and a den. And that's pretty much it. Access is on the side, going up a stairway. And the ground floor will stay basically the way it is, as storage.
Thank you.
Associated with this request, or setback variances, cover variances, anything like that?
Correct.
And the deck, would you classify that as a third floor deck or second floor deck?
Well, that to me is clearly a second floor deck.
Why is that?
Because I think, well, in any number of cases in the past where you had sort of parking or anything on the lower level, excuse me, that doesn't count as a story as far as zoning is concerned, so.
And the plan otherwise complies with party ordinance? Busted. Not really, I'm not going to argue they're wrong.
Yes.
That's the third point. Mr. Patterson and Scott are here, the board would like to hear from them, but I think the project complies with party ordinance for site plan approval. And I believe variance for that.
And we're going to still consider it a third floor deck and vote on it that way, and you'll have your variance that way. That way we're happy.
It's safe, it's safer.
Okay with that. Then that concludes our presentation.
And no one has any questions for the Scotts, do they? Anyone here from the public that would like to speak?
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to lose my time. My time estimate.
Yes, James Duncan,
Jimmy.
D-U-N-C-A.
And home address, please.
4 South Adams Avenue.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony about giving this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. My name's Jim Duncan. I'm a local guy. I grew up here. My family owned the business, local business here. And around about 1962, I discovered a couple things, Margate Colts and the Bay. And while I was discovering the Bay, I ran across Scott's grandfather, who taught not only myself, but a lot of local kids to fix the old motors we had and keep the wooden boats floating. Fast forward 55 years, I guess that business is still here for a reason. It is a part of Margate that's undeniable for us here. And here we have a kid, or a young man, who's third generation. Instead of wanting to walk away from the family business, wants to stay. And I think that this, I don't think, I know this young boy will be an asset to Margate in this business. And anything you guys can do to help, I certainly would appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Jim, we cleaned the beaches together, too.
No big boats.
That's all I have.
Public portion is closed. There's no conditions.
No.
Like to hear a motion as is with no conditions?
I'll make that motion.
Clem seconded.
Oh, wait, this is nine votes.
9 votes.
Tom Collins?
I think this is very minor in terms of variances, and I actually don't see it as a second or third floor deck. I see it as a 2.5-story deck because your curb level is so low at grade that you're really starting up halfway. So I don't see any problem with it. I vote for it.
Clem Wozleski?
Now, this is the kind of project we want to see in Margate. I'm all for it.
Mike Richmond?
I think it's a great addition to the neighborhood. I vote yes.
Jim Galantino?
Robin, I remember when you got your son from California, and he stayed here, hasn't he, since? So I think it's great to see the continuation of a family business. I vote yes.
Margaret Gubernalty?
It's a really nice project. I vote in favor of the application.
Mike Cristaldi?
I agree with everybody on the board. That's a very nice project. I approve.
Craig Palmisano?
I'm all for keeping the marinas going, and good luck with it, Scott. I approve.
David Carter?
I go along with Clem, and
Rich Patterson?
This enhances the character of the city. I see no negative impact. I vote yes.
Motion passes 9-0.
Yes.
Don't go.
Don't go.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's 5 minutes. Yeah, because they're going to recommend, yeah. Same to you. Good work. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, guys, I know you want to get out of here. Why don't we not wait for the master plan? You can take an action tonight to recommend to the Board of Commissioners that they amend the ordinance on the swimming pools to, let's say, 5 feet. That's the only thing that has to change. Everything else about pools would be the same. The pool equipment, the... or 6, whatever.
No, 5 feet's fine, but I think if we go 5 feet, rather than giving him option on the fence, make it 6 feet.
Okay, okay.
Instead of 5 or 6, make it 6 feet?
If 5 feet and it's required to be 6 foot
Yes.
high.
6-foot
Don't-
fence, you said. 6-foot fence, yes, with 5 foot.
Yeah, okay.
Don't kill me, but does anyone want a little bit more than 5 feet?
Yeah, 6.
6.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Talk it over, guys.
I like 6.
Tom, you had looked into it before. Did you say Ventnor and Longport are both
Ventnor and
5?
Longport are both 5, but actually Clem makes a good point. If you had a 3-foot planting area and a 3-foot walkway for safety.
I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Well, we got to decide, is that to the water or is that to the coping?
Water edge.
No, it's always water edge.
It's always been water edge.
Does anybody want more than 6, or is that the highest?
Yeah, take 4
Is
foot
that,
off.
do we have 7? 7?
You want your 8?
We have to discuss another meeting.
What? You got 6.
Can we just do it now?
It's not an option.
And Stan's you're the Ventnor,
Is it 5? Sir.
Just,
what's his name, the lawyer for the board? They have hardly any requests because it's 5 feet, so it's, and how many meetings, how many cases will we get rid of?
I believe so.
You got to save 10 cases a year, aren't we having like 1 a month at least?
Seems like every meeting there's
Boy, we had 2 tonight,
Just,
No, I think I would agree with 6 too. It seems like the whole board would.
That gives you
go
3
with
feet of your
6.
shrubbery and 3 feet of your walkway.
Right, I don't want you to change it all, because it'll reduce the amount of property.
just a point of order, though.
Chris just lost 2 applications.
Wait.
Just a point of order, if we're taking it and making a drastic change to our code, then we also have to take a pledge to ourselves that we're going to stick pretty close to that. So now it's required at 5 or 6, say we say 6.
Don't you come in with
And-
3s?
And somebody starts coming in with 3s, we got to tell them no right off the bat, so we don't have to, we got to stick to what if we're reducing it.
I can't agree with you anymore.
hear that?
You mean you couldn't agree more?
With me?
Is that what you...
About what we do, you know, we're...
We make too many.
One at a time. She's taking notes here.
Hasn't most of them been 5 feet, though? Isn't that been the standard, even though we're
No,
at 6?
we've had 6 and 7s where we pushed them back. They come in at 5, we pushed them back.
We had a 3.
We didn't have any room to push
We
here.
didn't pass it.
Okay.
Well, either one, we really didn't have room to push.
I heard a lot of 5s, I thought maybe that was...
We made the 3 move to pool, remember?
Yeah.
To get more, so we got closer to 5 or 6.
I think it's too close. I like the 6 because the average, say, tallest guy, you got 6 you can lay down for safety purposes, which is something we're thinking about. That'll maintain that safety aspect, the noise buffer.
Chase Lounge is 6 foot.
Yeah.
I can tell you for sure.
5 feet I tend to disagree with, but I like the 6, for all those
So,
reasons.
Stanley, can we take a vote tonight? 6 foot and 6 foot high fence?
We can, it just be a vote to make a recommendation to the governing body.
And if they vote for it, you would send a letter to the commissioners and I would follow up and...
Yeah, what I would do, I would send a recommendation letter to the commission,
Okay.
to the city clerk. They then put it on the commission agenda.
Okay.
And then they will vote on it. But a lot of times they want to see, well, maybe not here, but we can draft a new,
I'll draft it with
if you draft a
Scott,
new
yeah.
ordinance and just to change those things.
Yeah.
Let me look at it and then we'll send it
Yeah,
off.
absolutely.
Okay.
It could be law by the end of January.
It could be, yes.
Okay.
They have a couple, they got to go through a couple of readings though.
Can we also make a note in here that Roger actually asked not to wait for the master plan for something?
Well, that's why we're doing it, yes. Enough's enough.
Everything.
All right. I'd like to hear a motion that we make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners that we change the pool setback to 6 feet and we change the fence height from 5 or 6 feet to 6 feet.
I'll make that motion.
One question, all property lines or just the rear property?
Which? The 10 feet?
The complete enclosure.
The pool enclosure.
That's just for
Wherever it
pool
is,
enclosure.
wherever it is to the gates that close the pool, it has to be 6 feet.
Fence.
I'm glad mine's not 10 now.
Did I hear? Can we do a voice vote, or do we need to?
Stanley?
All in favor? Opposed?
It's planning board.
Motion passes unanimously.
Can we go home now?
Only if somebody, Jim wants to make a motion that we could adjourn and Tom would second it.
I'll do that.